Chapter 64. After the strange performance of the beautiful ladyboy Hua Hua, the atmosphere suddenly turned cold. Although all the young masters had fantasized about showing off their skills today, using their unique temperament and unique style to win the heart of the beauty, and finally returning home with glory and beauty, all the young masters had fantasized about showing off their skills today, using their unique temperament and unique style to win the heart of the beauty. However, under the abnormal special skills of the Feng family and the Hua family, as well as the performance of Feng Zi and Hua Hua, everyone felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. They were completely sober, and they were also shocked. Obviously, Long Shuailu didn't want this to happen, so he casually made his move. His battle aura turned into a palm, holding a cup of top-notch perfume named Poison that he had spent a lot of money to buy, and he flew towards Yu Qingqing. Long Shuailu's move had indeed shocked everyone present. It should be known that battle aura was just an external release of energy. It was easy to use energy to kill and destroy enemies, but to materialize battle aura into a real palm, even if it could only hold a bottle of perfume, one would need to be at least in the Emperor realm. However, it was a pity that he hadn't managed to completely learn Palace Master Long's famous consummate skill, the Dragon Capturing Hand. Palace Master Long's Dragon Capturing Hand was extremely powerful. With Palace Master's strength at the peak of the Saint Realm, if he used the Dragon Capturing Hand, not to mention the Saint-level Azure Dragon, he would definitely be able to capture the 8th-level Tyrant Dragon. He would be able to easily throw it around like it was a broken jar. Long Shuailu's battle aura was naturally not a problem for him to kill enemies with his battle aura. However, if he wanted to materialize battle aura into a real palm, hold a bottle of perfume, and fly it for more than 20 meters, it would obviously be a little difficult. Therefore, when this palm flew, it would occasionally shake a little, and there was even one time when it almost fell. In the end, Long Shuailu was covered in cold sweat, and his face was pale. Only then did he deliver the bottle of perfume to Yu Qingqing. Looking at the faint smile in everyone's eyes, Long Shuailu knew that he had really made a fool of himself this time. After that, some young masters seemed to feel that there was still hope and used their last bit of strength to fight. They all went up one after another, each displaying their own unique skills. For a moment, it was very lively and brilliant. On the other hand, there were only 3 people who should have made a move but didn't. One of them was the dazzling young master of the Divine City, Tu Qianjun, who rode on a winged dragon. The other one was Shui Wuhan, who was sitting respectfully beside Tu Qianjun. The last one was Yi Qinghan, who had silently finished off the suckling pig and started to wipe out the fruits on the table. It seemed like Tu Qianjun wanted to make the last move and suppress everyone with his skill. However, Shui Wuhan looked like a slave. He sat respectfully beside Tu Qianjun. It seemed like he didn't want to make the first move. On the other hand, Yi Qinghan didn't seem to be interested at all. It was as if he felt that the beautiful lady on the table was not as delicious as the plates of fruits on the table. The last young master's childish performance didn't garner any enthusiastic applause. The rest of the young masters finally recognized a fact. The ultimate skills that they were so proud of were so lowly and childish in front of the 5 clans and the Divine City's young masters. Therefore, they decisively expressed their silence and gave up. They didn't want to embarrass themselves and make a fool of themselves. Wu Hin, don't you want to go up and play? Tu Qianjun swept a glance at Yi Qinghan. He had been eating fruits with his head lowered. It seemed as if he would never be full. Tu Qianjun raised his eyebrows after he confirmed that no one else was going up. Young master is here. What is Wu Hin going to do? Make a fool of myself? Shui Wuhan shook his head and said. His tone was a little respectful, a little flattering, and a little humble. Tu Qianjun let out a long laugh. He proudly stood up and coldly swept his gaze across everyone. His eyes didn't have the same look of interest as before. Instead, he looked down on everyone. It was as if he was a high and mighty king looking down on a group of ants. He looked down on everyone for a while. Then, he coldly said when everyone was a little impatient, "Haha, indeed. You'll only make a fool of yourself if you go up. Since they've already made a fool of themselves, I'll just casually put on a show to liven things up for Lady Qingqing. Eh. Tu Qian-jun finished speaking. Everyone except for Shui Wuhan and Yi Qinghan's complexion changed at the same time. This was a slap to their faces. This was a naked slap to their faces. What did he mean by, "I've already made a fool of myself"? What did he mean by casually put on a show? The complexions of the older generation didn't look good either. Slapping the faces of their descendants was equivalent to slapping their old faces. You've come from the divine city, and your strength is very heaven-defying. But you should at least leave some face for us old fellows. Yu Qingqing's complexion didn't change after hearing Tu Qianjun's incomparably arrogant words. She looked at Yi Qinghan, who was still eating grapes without the slightest change in expression. Then, her complexion became a little richer. Her black pearl-like eyes flashed, and she instantly smiled. Then, she used an unprecedentedly sweet and soft voice to say, "Young Master Tu, please. Qingqing will wait and see." Feng Zihua and Long Shuelio's complexion changed completely. They became a little deathly gray and looked very unsightly. Today was the Summer Fire Festival. It was the day that Yu Qingsheng would choose her man. Strength, influence, and performance were all fake in this bonfire party. The most important thing was Yu Qingqing's attitude, because the final decision was still in her hands. Originally, when they were performing, Yu Qingqing's attitude was always lukewarm. But now, Tu Qianjuan's performance had not even started, and Yu Qingqing had already expressed her attitude. One could imagine what this meant. Since Miss Qingqing wants to see, I'll also learn from them and perform a few acrobatics for you to watch. Tu Qianjun looked at the blackened faces of Feng Zihua and the others. He seemed to find it very interesting and continued to mock them. As soon as he finished speaking, the expressions of the old fellows sitting in the seats of honor, except for Shui Fei, all changed. Acrobatics? When did the unique skills of the great clans become acrobatics? The expressions of the Feng and Hua clans' Grand Supreme Elders were the worst. Yi Qingyou and Yu Ji's expressions were not very good either. The 5 great clans were of the same breadth and branch. Humiliating one clan was equivalent to humiliating all 5. And now, it was very obvious that Tu Qianjun had actually humiliated all of them. Us old fellows are looking forward to young Master Tu's performance. The Feng clan's Grand Supreme Elder spoke. His tone was full of anger. Elder Feng, there's no need to be angry. I don't mean to question your clan's imperial sword technique. I just feel that the disciples of your clan don't seem to be using the imperial sword technique very well. It just so happens that I have also learned 2 moves of the imperial sword technique. Elder, please appraise them. Tu Qianjun smiled faintly. It was as if he did not see Feng Zi's true purple face and his explosive muscles, as if they were really going to explode. He just casually waved his hand and did the same action as Feng Zi just now. Following his hand gesture, the meat cleaver in front of him actually trembled strangely. Then, under the astonished gazes of everyone present, it soared into the sky. Then, it elegantly danced in the sky. Finally, it imitated Feng Zi and fell straight down. It pierced through a suckling pig and flew to the sky above Yu Qingsheng. Once it was in the sky, the meat cleaver suddenly sped up and turned into an afterimage. It continuously shuttled through the body of the falling suckling pig. Finally, it landed at the same time as the suckling pig and stabbed diagonally into the body of the suckling pig. All the young masters looked at the suckling pig on the table that was as good as before. They also looked at the meat cleaver that was stabbed into the suckling pig and was constantly shaking. Although they were a little shocked that Tu Qianjun actually knew the Feng clan's unique skill and that he seemed to be dancing very elegantly, they still had some doubts in their hearts. Didn't you say that Feng Zi's imperial sword technique wasn't very good? What did Feng Zi say? He was able to use a huge sword to cut the suckling pig into 7 or 8 pieces. Yet, after dancing for so long, the suckling pig was still intact? Young Master Tu's imperial sword technique is indeed brilliant. Feng Zi admits defeat. While everyone was still puzzled, Feng Zi stood up and swayed. His face was ashen as he spoke in a deep voice. As soon as Feng Zi finished speaking, the meat cleaver stopped swaying. The suckling pig was like a blossoming flower. It split open from the middle and was divided into countless evenly sized pieces. Then it was steadily placed on the plate. Young master's skill is divine. Wu Hin admires you. Shui Wu Hin stood up and cupped his hands respectfully as he spoke. The passion in his black and gray eyes was very obvious. Looking at the dozens of evenly sized pieces of suckling pork on the plate, listening to Feng Zi's sincere words, and looking at Shui Wu Hin's respectful posture, all the young masters were shocked once again. However, there were too many shocks today. All the young masters felt a little numb. The things that they were proud of and glorious in the past, in front of Feng Zi and Tu Qianjuan's performance, became extremely childish and laughable. As a result, they developed a deep sense of defeat and a faint sense of inferiority. It was to the extent that they didn't even know that Tu Qianjun had suddenly disappeared in front of everyone. They didn't notice, but Yi Qinghan, Hua Mu, and Feng Zi were very sensitive and discovered it. They looked at each other and revealed an expression of disbelief and extreme shock. What situation was this? Tu Qianjun actually knew the Hua clan's stealth? What was stealth? It was the Hua clan's unique skill. The Hua clan was the descendants of the Thorn God. Only those who possessed the Thorn God's bloodline could learn the stealth skill. Furthermore, Tu Qianjun had just revealed the Feng clan's unique imperial sword technique. Since when did the unique skill of the 5 big clans become so worthless? Everyone could learn it? Could it be that the people in the Divine City were also descendants of the ancient gods? And they had all the bloodlines of the 5 ancient gods? Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He couldn't understand it no matter how he thought about it. Finally, he looked at Yi Qingyo, who was at the top of the seats. Feng Zi and Hua Mu also looked at the grand elders of their clans. There's no need to be surprised. The people in the Divine City are all descendants of the ancient gods. I'll explain the specifics later. The unique skills of the 5 big clans that they know are all imitations. They might seem good at the beginning, but in the later stages, their power and destructive power will be very different. Yi Qingyo and the few grand elders passed on the information to answer their questions. However, seeing that Tu Qianjun was using their clan's unique skill to sweep across their faces, they felt very uncomfortable, and their faces darkened. Young Master Tu disappeared? At this time, the people present finally realized that Tu Qianjun had disappeared. They all looked around, their faces full of confusion and disbelief. Although their abilities were the weakest among them, Tu Qianjun had actually disappeared right under their noses. This was too terrifying. After a while, Tu Qianjun finally solved their doubts. He suddenly appeared on the stage, holding a bunch of red roses that were a few times bigger than Hua Mu's. It was the same stealth and the same afterimage clone technique, but his stealth seemed to be more thorough than Hua Mu's. His afterimage clone technique was actually more than 10 meters long, and the number of clones was more than double that of Hua Mu's. Miss Qingsheng, I think that red roses represent love more. Isn't that right? Tu Qianjun stood elegantly in front of Yu Qingsheng, holding a big bunch of red roses. His body leaned forward slightly, and his face was full of confidence and a proud smile. Young Master Tu is very considerate. Yu Qingsheng reached out and took the red roses. She looked at Yi Qinghan, who had his head lowered and seemed to be thinking about something. She opened her mouth and smiled. Her neat white teeth, tender red lips, and intoxicating smile made everyone's heart skip a beat. Tu Qianjun swept his gaze over all the young masters below. He was very satisfied with their shocked and frustrated expressions. He waved his hand in a confident and unrestrained manner and said with a smile, "Hee, these are just some small tricks. Since young Lady Qingqing likes them, I'll show you one more trick and give you a small gift. I hope you like them." Small tricks? Faced with Tu Qianjuan's naked humiliation, Feng Zi and Hua Mu remained silent and lowered their heads slightly. Although their elders had already explained it to them, they still couldn't accept that they had lost to an outsider in the consummate skill that they were so proud of. Long Shuelia's expression was a little bad, but he was still slightly better. He even felt a little proud. At least he hadn't been slapped in the face, so he felt like the pot calling the kettle black. However, in the next moment, his face turned completely ashen. He saw a hand, a huge palm. At this moment, a huge palm flew towards the outside of the field. Closely after that, it caught that huge pterosaur and threw it into the open plain. Dragon catcher hand. Tu Qinjun actually knew the dragon catcher hand, and it looked like he was using it very well, although the winged dragon definitely wouldn't resist its master. However, such a huge winged dragon was actually caught by him from such a long distance. A small palm was holding a bottle of perfume, and it was flying unsteadily at such a close distance. Furthermore, a single person was able to grab a winged dragon so quickly and steadily. Even a blind person could see that the dragon catcher hand was like heaven and earth. They weren't on the same level at all. Evidently, compared to Feng Zi and Hua Mu, Tu Qinjuan's slap in the face seemed to be more severe and thorough. This little worm doesn't have any special use. It can only bring people flying. I'll give it to Miss Qingqing as well. You can play with it when you're free, Tu Qinjun said indifferently as he retracted his hand and placed it behind his back. Chapter 65. The open space of the Tranquil Lake Island was very lively, noisy, and interesting. The Tranquil Lake Summer Fire Festival that happened once every 15 years had become even more interesting because of the appearance of a young master. Not only was this young master's strength outstanding, he definitely had the strength of the top 3 on the Earth list. Furthermore, he seemed to be omnipotent. He was very familiar with the ultimate skills of the Feng family and the flora and fauna ancient gods. Even the famous ultimate skill of the Divine War Abode's #1 expert, Manor Master Long, seemed to be executed beautifully by him. He was also very generous. He could easily give away a level 7 magical beast, the pterosaur, which was rare even among the 5 families. Most importantly, he came from the Divine City. The Divine City was undeniably the holy land in the eyes of the people of the continent. It had protected the 3 clans of the continent for thousands of years, allowing countless people to live and work in peace and contentment. Countless people didn't need to worry that war would happen to them. The city on the high and mighty Divine Mountain had played the most important role. Today, the young masters from various places in the House of Aries finally had the opportunity to see the elegance of some people from the Divine City. They weren't disappointed. Whether it was in terms of temperament, grace, or strength, he suppressed all the young masters present, and many people were convinced. Didn't you see that the Shui family's young master, who was usually high and mighty, was like a dog in front of him? All the young masters were very excited. They were happy that they could see the peerless elegance of the Divine City's young masters. They were secretly happy that the Divine City's young masters had the ability to suppress the usually high and mighty descendants of the 5 families. They naturally thought that only the Son of God from the Divine City was worthy of the goddess-like fairy up there, and only he could possess her. This was too much. Looking at the big guy in front of her full of ferocity and arrogance, Yu Qingqing knew that she had gone too far. Tu Qinjuan's gift was a bit too much. Yu Qingqing was in a dilemma. A level 7 magical beast, the Divine City's special mount. This was not a small gift. Accepting his gift was equivalent to admitting that she was leaving with Tu Qinjun. Originally, Yu Qingqing saw that Yi Qinghan had been acting like this and didn't care about her at all. She wanted to anger him and provoke him a little. It had always been her unconvinced mentality of a little girl causing mischief. At this moment, he realized that he had gone a little overboard, so he didn't know how to end the situation. He, young Master 2, is considerate. Such a big guy. Even if you give it to the Yu clan won't be able to raise it. Young Master, you should keep it first. If Qingqing chooses you in the end, it won't be too late to give it to her then. In the end, it was Yu Ji who expressed her stance and solved Yu Qingqing's problem. If it was Yu Ji who said this, there would naturally be no problem. If it was Yu Qingqing who said it, there would naturally be a problem. Therefore, Tu Qinjun nodded his head and didn't force him too much. He put away the winged dragon and happily chatted with Shui Wuhan. Some people were happy, and some people were unhappy. Feng Zi's face was gloomy. Flowers and grass were silent. Long Shuelio's handsome face seemed to be a little twisted. Yi Qinghan was still eating his fruit silently. His meaning was obvious. It's none of my business. I will definitely not get involved in this matter today. Old Neo, you have to get back your face today. Although the Grand Elder didn't seem to have any change on the surface, he was secretly transmitting his voice to the Grand Elder. His tone was somewhat displeased and dissatisfied. Old Neo asked your kid to go show off. Didn't you say that your kid is very awesome? Don't you want this girl? Ching Ching? The Grand Elder of Flowers and Grass also transmitted his voice over. Yi Qinghan drank his tea silently. His bulging eyes glared at the two of them, and then coldly swept a glance at Yi Qinghan, who seemed to have fallen asleep at the side. Originally, he was still anxious about why Yi Qinghan wasn't going up to show off. Now it seemed that this kid was very smart. And now, the Feng clan and the Hua clan's elders were transmitting their voices. It was very obvious that they wanted to drag the Yi family down with them. He wasn't an idiot. Of course, he wouldn't do such a stupid thing. Young Master Han, you have to get back your face. Feng Zi's face was gloomy for a moment. Then he came over and said in a low voice. Flowers and Grass ears twitched, and his beautiful eyes quickly turned a few rounds. He also came over and said, That's right, brother. You have a lot of ideas. Help us get back some face. We, the 5 great clans, are the same branch. Slapping our faces is also slapping yours. Yi Qinghan spat out a melon seed, grabbed another one, and continued to eat. He didn't even look at Feng Zi or Flowers and Grass. Only when the two of them couldn't wait any longer and were about to repeat their request and emphasize their clear intentions did he say indifferently, What does it have to do with me? Isn't Shui Wuhan from the 5 great clans? Asked him to go up. Pfft, this kind of scum? I'm blind. Feng Zi glanced at Shui Wuhan, who was talking and laughing with Tu Qianjun, and revealed an expression of disgust. In the future, there will only be the 4 great clans in our generation. I won't acknowledge that dog, Flowers and Grass said coldly, as if Shui Wuhan's behavior had completely hurt his feelings. Oh! Yi Qinghan's eyes revealed a smile. He didn't understand why Shui Wuhan would obviously join Tu Qianjuan's side when he saw him. Moreover, he was acting so pretentiously, which made people uncomfortable. As long as Feng Zi and Flowers and Grass didn't die prematurely, they would definitely be leaders. Why was Shui Wuhan like this? And the old man from the Shui clan seemed to be silently agreeing with his behavior. However, he was very satisfied with Feng Zi and Flowers' attitude. Shui Wuhan had sent people to kill him, and he was the real culprit who had left his sister lying in the back of the mountain. He had to kill this person. Now that he saw Feng Zi and Flowers' attitude, he was even happier. Therefore, he laughed happily, then shook his head and said, I promised the 4 of you that I wouldn't do anything today, and I'm a man of my word. Huh? Feng Zi and Flowers could hear what he meant, and their eyebrows twitched at the same time. This guy was so strange. Did he really have the confidence to help them regain some face? Therefore, the two of them said very seriously, Young Master Han, of course you're a man of your word. We're begging you this time, so we can't take it as you going back on your word. I promised the 4 of you, and the 4 of you promised me one thing too. Yi Qinghan spread his hands, indicating that he couldn't do anything. He didn't want to be stabbed in the back during the residence battle, just to help them regain some face. The 2 of us definitely agree, and Long Shuelu will obviously agree too. But that traitor, Humph? Feng Zi said gruffly. She was in a difficult position. It seemed that Shui Wuhan wouldn't agree. She was in a difficult position. Yu Qingqing was also in a difficult position. Tu Qianjun had the upper hand, but now no one was performing. They seemed to have given up on competing with the young master from the Divine City. Perhaps it was because they were all descendants of the 5 great clans, which made her feel a sense of solidarity against a common enemy. Or perhaps it was because Tu Qianjuan's performance today was too strong and arrogant. Therefore, she didn't have much interest in this high and mighty young master from the Divine City. However, if no one else continued to perform, she really didn't know how to end the situation. Therefore, when she inadvertently glanced at the black figure again and saw him spread his hands helplessly, she felt a little angry in her heart. After a moment of silence, Her pair of black pearl-like eyes revealed a hint of agility. She coughed lightly and gathered everyone's attention on her. Then she said faintly, "What?" Young Master Han seems to feel that young Master Qianjuan's performance just now wasn't very good. Huh. Yu Qingqing's words successfully shifted everyone's attention to Yi Qinghan. Looking at everyone's interested gazes, as well as Tu Qianjuan's ice-cold glance, Yi Qinghan meaningfully looked at Yu Qingcheng. It seemed as if he was blaming Yu Qingcheng. It felt as if Tang Sung was looking at the great sage affectionately and saying, "Wukong, you're being mischievous again. Young Master Han, of course he doesn't like it. How can young Master Han's talent be guessed by ordinary people? Moreover, he also wants to show off, but he's worried that Xue Wuhan and young Master Xue won't agree?" Feng Zi's eyes brightened as soon as Yu Qingqing's words fell. She hurriedly stood up and said with a big grin, "Oh, Wu Hin, what's the matter?" Tu Qianjuan's eyes flashed coldly as he asked Xue Wuhan in a low voice. Xue Wuhan laughed and hurriedly explained in a low voice, as if he didn't care about the disgusted looks from Feng Zi and Hua Hua. If that's the case, agree to him. I want to see what tricks he can play." Tu Qianjun snorted coldly and said disdainfully. Yu Qingqing's black pearl-like eyes turned and understood many things. She couldn't help but feel even more furious at the black figure. This also made her even more determined to humiliate Yi Qinghan. Thus, she said in an even more resentful tone, "Why doesn't young Master Xue agree?" "There's no such thing." After receiving Tu Qianjun's instructions, Xue Wuhen stood up in a heroic manner. He then turned his head to look at Yi Qinghan. Then he said with a faint smile, "Since young Master Han also wishes to display his incompetence, Wu Hin will wait and see. Young Master Han, do your best. Don't worry about the rest." Long Shuelu stood up at this time. It was obvious that he was telling Yi Qinghan, "Go ahead, I'll support you for the time being." Tu Qianjun had thoroughly slapped him in the face, making him temporarily forget that Yi Qinghan had knocked him out with a punch. He stubbornly believed that it was a duel, and that his skills were inferior to Yi Qinghan's, so he lost. It wasn't particularly shameful. Moreover, Dragon Fifth had told him that Yi Qinghan had also held back at that time. Otherwise, he would have lost his life. Therefore, when faced with the current situation, he immediately stood up and supported Yi Qinghan. If Yi Qinghan performed well, then it would help him regain some face. If Yi Qinghan didn't perform well, then he could also vent his anger from being knocked out by Yi Qinghan. It would be a win-win situation, so it would be a waste not to do it. "Little Han, if you're confident, then go up and do it. This brat is making me, old ox, very unhappy." Yi Qingyo's voice immediately rang in Yi Qinghan's ears. Yi Qinghan awkwardly rubbed his nose and sighed deeply. He stood up, stretched his body comfortably, and yawned lazily. After attracting enough attention, he leisurely said, "You're right, you're right. I've always believed that the Yu Clan's Summer Fire Festival, choosing men through the performances of the young masters, is a very wrong way of doing things. It's a bit like a beautiful female monkey asking a group of male monkeys to dance a flirtatious hula dance. Depending on which monkey danced well, it would decide which monkey could sleep on its bed at night." Yi Qinghan's opening sentence caused an uproar among the crowd. Many people in the crowd spat out a mouthful of wine at the same time. His words offended almost all the young masters who had performed, including the goddess-like young lady Yu Qingqing. Feng Zi and Hua Hua lowered their heads in embarrassment, but they were cursing in their hearts. Meanwhile, Tu Qianjuan's expression didn't turn gloomy because of Yi Qinghan's words. Instead, he looked at Yi Qinghan with interest, as if he was looking at a very interesting toy. Yu Qingqing's beautiful eyes narrowed. This brat was too hateful. Every time he opened his mouth, he would say words like choosing a man and sleeping with him. He even compared her to a female monkey. Although he said it was a beautiful female monkey, it was still unforgivable. Yi Qingyo's mouth was wide open from laughter. This brat was pleasing to the eye no matter how he looked at him. This aura, this sense of humor, he was as flirtatious as when he was young. The rest of the grand elders were also slightly stunned, and they shook their heads in unison. It seemed like Yi Dao's son was even more of a hooligan and wanton than Yi Dao in the past. Yuji lowered her head and pondered. She seemed to be thinking deeply about the deep meaning behind Yi Qinghan's words. Looking at everyone's unfriendly gazes, looking at Yu Qingqing's angry eyes, looking at Tu Qianjuan's interested expression, and looking at Shui Wuhan's mocking expression, Yi Qinghan laughed mischievously. Without waiting for everyone to fly into a rage, Yi Qinghan leisurely walked out. He rubbed his hands and continued, "Of course, this comparison isn't appropriate. In fact, I think that your performance just now was even uglier than a monkey's dance. Don't deny it first. I think that the way men fight over a woman can actually be divided into two types. The first type is pure martial strength. Everyone fight in the arena and then fight an elimination match. Isn't that more direct? And I personally think that the things passed down by your clan's ancestors aren't for you to perform, but to kill your enemies on the battlefield and to save your life in the face of death. The other type is pure artistic performance. Although, I don't think there's such a thing as artistic in this world. However, everyone, think about it. The martial strength that you rely on to survive and fight is actually used for performance. The martial strength that you rely on to survive and fight is actually used for performance. And other than showing off your strength and special skills, as well as feeling good about yourself, what else is there in your performance? That's why I feel that your performance is inferior to a monkey's dance. No matter what others are dancing is pure art. It's not like the abstract performance of a monkey's dance that was passed down from your clan's supreme martial strength. I really don't feel comfortable watching it. And I'm a person who likes to be more direct and say whatever is on my mind. Of course, the young masters here are all elites, and their hearts are as broad as the ocean. I think everyone won't mind. Yeah, I've already talked big today. If I don't perform a bit, I reckon that you won't let me off. So, I'll just perform a dance to liven things up for everyone. Of course, it's a very pure hula dance. Chapter 66. This guy has a sharp tongue and is quite eloquent. But he's only at the first level of the general realm? An 8th grade beast? His strength is nothing much, it's a pity. Tu Qianjun smiled coldly as he shook his head and said to Shui Wuhan, who was standing beside him, "Compared to you, he's obviously worthless. It's just that this brat has some tricks up his sleeves." Wu Hen had secretly suffered some losses from him before. Shui Wuhan smiled slightly. His tone and expression were both respectful, without the slightest flaw. He's only a flea that can jump high. It's nothing much. If you can survive this battle, you can go to the Divine City and follow me from now on. Tu Qianjun was very satisfied with Shui Wuhan's attitude. He looked at the fervent look in his eyes and said indifferently, "Thank you, young master." Hearing Tu Qianjun's words, Shui Wuhan's eyes emitted a fervent light. He was extremely excited and was about to kneel down to Tu Qianjun to express his respect and gratitude. Unexpectedly, Tu Qianjun waved his hand casually. He could only stand up embarrassedly and stood behind Tu Qianjun even more respectfully. Looking at Yi Qinghan, who was still speaking with fervor and assurance, Shui Wuhan's lips curled into a mocking smile. His body trembled slightly, and his fingers turned white from clenching his fists, expressing the excitement in his heart. He met Tu Qianjun by chance 10 years ago when he was traveling outside. At that time, Tu Qianjun was still a 15 or 16-year-old playful child. He often escaped from the Divine City to play. Coincidentally, he discovered Tu Qianjun's identity, so he started to curry favor with Tu Qianjun secretly. He often brought him out to play, fawned on him everywhere, and satisfied all of his requests. Today, he finally received Tu Qianjun's reward. He finally had the chance to enter the tall Divine Mountain and enter the Divine City. Of course, he was extremely excited. Although he entered as a subordinate, or even a servant, he didn't regret it. On the contrary, he was extremely ecstatic. This was because he had accidentally learned a huge secret from Tu Qianjun, a secret that could change his fate. Only by entering the Divine City could he reach the heavens in a single bound, change his fate, and obtain a huge opportunity. The monkey is going to dance. Hearing Tu Qianjun's cold words, Shui Wuhan immediately withdrew his thoughts. He looked at Yi Qinghan, who was standing in the middle of the arena. He was extremely curious in his heart. How would Yi Qinghan perform? Could it be that he would bring out his beast and perform a monkey show? It started. The young masters stopped their discussions and turned their attention to Yi Qinghan, who was standing in the middle of the field. They wanted to see how this arrogant young man would react. Yi Qinghan walked to the center of the field lazily. After whetting everyone's appetite, he did not make his move immediately. Instead, he suddenly made a special move. His body shook, and he raised his head. His spine suddenly became straight, and he put his hands behind his back. His expression was solemn, and there was a hint of vicissitudes in his life. His eyes gradually became deep, and his eyebrows inadvertently furrowed slightly. It was as if a young warrior had turned into a middle-aged poet in dire straits. Ugh! Yi Qinghan's instantaneous change in temperament had indeed shocked everyone. His ability to change his expression was too fast. Furthermore, he was acting as if it was really the case. Bring the wine! Just as everyone was secretly sneering, Yi Qinghan suddenly shouted. He maintained his original posture, but he stretched out his hand and waved it towards Feng Zi's square table. Feng Zi chuckled and lightly patted a jar of wine on the table with one hand. The wine jar flew steadily towards Yi Qinghan. Not a single drop of wine spilled on the table, nor did it explode. Yi Qinghan did not turn his head. It was as if he had eyes on his back. Before the wine jar touched his hand, he turned his palm into a claw. He easily grabbed the wine jar, leaned back slightly, and gulped down mouthfuls of wine. Under the illumination of the moonlight, the colorless wine turned into a lustrous white. At this moment, the lustrous white wine spilled out from the wine jar and flowed down violently like the Milky Way. It flowed into Yi Qinghan's mouth, onto his face, onto his clothes, and onto the lawn. Instantly, the strong fragrance of the wine filled the entire space. Aga wine, bring me my sword. When the wine jar was almost finished, Yi Qinghan let out a long laugh. With a wave of his hand, he flung the wine jar towards Feng Zi. Then, he pointed at Dugu Jian, who was behind his square table. Dugu Jian smiled. He picked up his sword with his left hand and slapped the hilt with his right hand. His silver long sword shot out like a bolt of lightning, heading straight for Yi Qinghan's face. At this moment, Yi Qinghan seemed to be a little drunk. His body swayed slightly, but he continued to look at the sky with narrowed eyes, as if he did not notice the sharp sword shooting straight at him. His body swayed just enough to let the silver sword slip past his face. Then he reached out with one hand. His movements seemed slow, but he firmly grasped the hilt of the sword. Then, he took a small step forward and raised the sword above his head. He reached out with his other hand and grasped the scabbard, slowly pulling it open. Clang! The gorgeous silver scabbard was pulled out in an instant, revealing the dazzling blade. The sword was 3 feet long and 4 fingers wide. Under the moonlight, the cold blade glowed with a cold light. He casually flung the scabbard into the ground, sinking about 3 inches into the soil. Yi Qinghan reached out with his finger and slowly slid it across the silver blade. His eyes were focused and affectionate, as if he were looking at the woman he loved. Everyone present quieted down. It was as if Yi Qinghan's series of actions had brought them into a strange scene. In the Fire Dragon continent, literature and art had never been valued. Therefore, it had never been developed. This was the first time they had seen such a performance. It was novel, exciting, and also a dreamy feeling. Yi Qinghan paid no attention to everyone's expressions. He only stared intently at the sword that was raised in midair. It was as if the sword was the only thing left in his world. After a while, he suddenly moved. He held the sword in his right hand and stabbed it forward. His body quickly followed, and he quickly flicked the sword a few times. Then his body suddenly stopped, and he suddenly shouted, watching the sword by the lantern while drunk. After saying that, his body quickly danced again. He danced like a fast sword. His movements were clean and neat, and extremely gorgeous. As he danced, he used a special rhythm to sing, watching the sword by the lantern while drunk, dreaming of returning to the Horn Camp. 800 miles away, the sound of 50 strings flipping over the walls, the soldiers on the battlefield in autumn, the sword danced faster and faster. Then it gradually slowed down. However, it was a blur in everyone's eyes. The seemingly slow sword could only be seen flashes of white light. At this moment, there was a sudden change in the scene. The wind started to blow on the tranquil lake island. The whistling summer wind made everyone's robes flutter. However, everyone was immersed in Yi Qinghan's novel and unique sword dance and blood-boiling poem. They didn't notice anything. However, the few old sage realm fellows in the seats of honor seemed to have sensed something. They frowned and looked around. The horse moves as fast as lightning. The bow shakes like a thunderbolt, accomplishing the king of war's affairs, winning fame in life and death. What a pity! With Yi Qinghan's slow and fast recitation and the flashing sword dance, the wind grew stronger. While no one was paying attention, the concentration of the heaven and earth spiritual chi on the tranquil lake island reached a terrifying level. Perhaps after a while, or perhaps after a long time, Yi Qinghan slowly came to a stop. Amidst the crisp sound of the sword, Yi Qinghan held the sword with one hand. He raised his head slightly and closed his eyes as he stood there quietly. Strangely, the sudden gust of wind that blew on the tranquil lake island also disappeared without a trace, as if it had never happened. The entire place was so silent that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. Looking at the young man standing alone in the center of the field, that young and inexperienced face filled with vicissitudes of life, and the majestic melody that no one had heard before echoed in their ears, everyone fell into a deep silence. The sudden gust of wind and the inexplicable strange atmosphere in the field made everyone feel as if they had experienced a fantastic and magical journey. It was as if they had arrived at an ancient battlefield. Everyone had transformed into a warrior, wielding their swords and killing without leaving a trace. Unfortunately, in the end, they were defeated and the entire army was annihilated. They were left standing alone on the battlefield with their hair gradually turning white. Yuji widened her eyes and looked around with a solemn expression. It was as if she was carefully sensing the difference in the surroundings. The few Grand Supreme elders looked at each other and saw a trace of surprise and shock in each other's eyes. Tu Qianjun stared blankly at the sky. No one knew what he was thinking. Shui Wuhan squinted his eyes slightly. Feng Zi and Hua Hua opened their mouths wide. Long Shuelu licked his lips. Duga Jian and the other four were filled with excitement. The young master's blood was boiling, and their faces were as red as the first tide. Yu Qingqing's eyes were blurry and rippled with extraordinary splendor. Watching the sword by the lamp when drunk, blowing the horn in my dream to link the camp, everyone felt as if a young man was caressing the sharp sword and falling into a drunken sleep. Then, when they woke up at dawn, they heard the majestic horn sound from all the military camps. The first two lines were filled with emotions and emotions. 800 miles away, the sound of 50 bowstrings flipping over the wall, the soldiers on the battlefield in autumn. Everyone felt as if they had arrived at a battlefield where tens of thousands of people were fighting. They saw the mighty military camps with axes and halberds standing upright and pointing to the sky. Flags fluttered and fluttered, and the soldiers' armor shone brightly. Coupled with Yi Qinghan's swift sword that was as fast as the wind, the hot-bloodedness hidden in the depths of everyone's hearts was completely stimulated. The horse gallops as fast as lightning. The bow shakes like a thunderbolt, accomplishing the king's affairs, winning fame in life and in death. The last part of Yi Qinghan's sword dance was sometimes fast and sometimes slow, and the tune was also sometimes high and sometimes low. It made people reminisce about the soldiers' invincible heroic spirit, which was still fresh in people's minds. Before and after death, they left behind the good name of building an immortal country for the nation. The words were filled with patriotism and passion. These two lines meant that the poet saw that he had achieved success and was proud of himself. Thus, he cheered happily. Even the tune was relaxed and majestic, raising the emotions of the lyrics to the highest point. And the last line, "Pity happened in vain." The tip of the pen suddenly changed, causing the emotions to plummet from the highest point. It expressed the infinite emotion of not being able to fulfill one's ambition. It revealed the sharp opposition between ideals and reality, and expressed the grief and indignation of having the heart to serve the country, but having no way to go. The whole poem was covered with a strong sense of sadness. This line echoed the first line, both describing the feelings of real life. It formed a strong contrast with the dream in the middle, and powerfully expressed the grief and indignation of having the ambition to serve the country. A brand new sword dance, a tune that no one had heard before, a poem that made people's blood boil and filled with emotion. The cadence of the recitation matched with the bewitching sword dance. Although there were many parts of the poem that the audience did not understand, and some of the words did not understand the meaning, it did not hinder the audience from appreciating this performance. It did not hinder the shock and baptism in the depths of their souls. They did not know why, but their hearts felt intoxicated as if they were in a dream. After a long time, it was unknown who gave the first applause, but a moment later, the applause was like a surging tide. They had never thought that a man's sword dance could be like this, and that a man could also sing. Moreover, he could sing in such a way that resonated with people's hearts. Tu Chinju nodded and came back to his senses. Then he started to clap lightly. Although the light in his eyes was still arrogant, there was also a faint hint of admiration in it. Yuji sighed slightly. Her expression was cautious, and she did not clap. Instead, she pondered for a long time. Suddenly, she stood up and walked in front of Yi Qinghan with quick steps. She bowed respectfully and said respectfully, "Young Master Han is very talented. Yuji has danced for dozens of years, and has also taught for dozens of years. Only today did I realize that I was a frog at the bottom of a well. This old one is ashamed. Yuji is willing to take young Master Han as her teacher and follow by your side. I hope that young master does not dislike me." Chapter 67. Yi Qinghan was dumbfounded. He stared blankly at the beautiful middle-aged woman in front of him, looking into her sincere and longing eyes. He did not understand what had happened. He had not planned to appear today. Just as he had said, this performance was no different from a monkey dance. However, Tu Qinjuan's powerful performance and his undisguised slap to the 5 great clans made him very displeased. Thus, he casually imitated a famous sword dance from his previous life to break the ice. However, he did not know whether it was because of the beautiful scenery of Tranquil Lake Island, or because he had recalled the events of his previous life and the white-clothed woman at the back mountain of the Yi family, or perhaps because he had drunk a jar of wine that made him slightly tipsy. The more he danced, the more intoxicated he became. The more he sang, the more passionate he became, to the point that he himself sank into it. In the end, after he finished his performance, he was still immersed in his dream. Then, he was awakened by Yu Ji's sincere words. He knew that the beautiful middle-aged woman in front of him was actually old enough to be his grandmother. He also knew that Yu Ji was the Yu family's grand elder and one of the 2 saints of the Yu family. However, he did not know why this expert, who was on equal footing with Yi Qingyo, wanted to take him as her disciple just because he sang a very ordinary song and danced a very ordinary dance. Yi Qingyo and the others were also dumbfounded. They looked in disbelief at Yu Ji's sincere face. After confirming that she was not joking, they all fell silent and sank in a deep thought. They thought of the sudden gust of wind just now and seemed to have connected something. Tu Qianjun was also dumbfounded. He looked seriously at Yu Ji for a while and also fell silent. The light in his eyes continued to shine. Although he did not understand what had happened, he had acutely sensed that the spirit chi of heaven and earth above Tranquil Lake Island had become much thicker. Moreover, the gust of wind just now seemed to confirm a certain guess in his heart. He began to narrow his eyes to observe the changes in the scene. Feng Zihua and the other young masters were also dumbfounded. They did not know what had happened. Didn't he just dance and recite a poem? Although they also felt that the dance was not bad and the song was very interesting. Even the grand elder of the Yu family had gone to take him as her disciple, right? Yu Qingcheng was stunned as well. She silently looked at Elder Yu, whom she respected. She actually wanted to acknowledge a junior as her master. Then, she seemed to have thought of something. She thought of that strange gust of wind just now, and a dazzling light burst forth from her eyes. At this moment, a voice transmission suddenly rang in her ears. She listened carefully, and after a moment of silence, she suddenly stood up and said in an unusually determined tone, "Young masters, I hereby announce the end of this summer fire festival. This time, I have chosen only one guardian, and he is Yi Qinghan." Hearing the determination in Yu Qingqing's melodious voice, looking at her peerless face and pearl-like eyes, Yu Qingqing's heart sank. Except for a few old fellows, everyone present was once again collectively dumbfounded. The Yu clan's Tranquil Lake Island Summer Fire Festival was held once every 15 years. They were very cautious and serious every time. Furthermore, the saint would always choose 2 guardians for the Summer Fire Festival and observe them for 3 years before deciding who would be the saint. This rule had been passed down for countless years without exception. It was just that the previous generation's saint, Yu Yin, was deeply infatuated with the peerless elegance of the Yi clan's genius, Yi Dao. She actually broke the rule and chose only one person. In the end, Yi Dao didn't become the saint's son-in-law. Instead, he fell in love with Yu Shui, a popular artist in the Yu house. He abandoned the Yu clan's saint and lifelong guest elder position and returned to the Yi clan with Yu Shui. In the end, the saint, Yu Yin lived in seclusion and passed away quietly. Now, it seemed that Yu Qingcheng was going to break this rule again. Not only did she end the Summer Fire Festival early, but she also personally announced the result that the man she chose was Yi Qinghan. Why weren't the young masters stunned? How could they not be shocked? Although Yi Qinghan was a disciple of the Yi clan, his strength was not bad. However, among the young masters present, there were obviously a few whose reputation and strength seemed to be higher than his. Most importantly, Tu Qianjun was a young master of the Divine City. No matter how one looked at it, Tu Qianjun was more outstanding than Yi Qinghan. Now, there was actually a dark horse. Yu Qingcheng chose Yi Qinghan and even removed the position of the other protector. This completely severed everyone's hope. There wasn't even a trace of hope left. This poisonous peach blossom had bewitched everyone and made them infatuated. Now, this peach blossom actually bloomed early, and it bloomed because of one person. Was it because that person performed a rather interesting dance? This reason was obviously not sufficient, and it couldn't convince everyone. Therefore, Xue Wuhan obviously expressed his dissatisfaction. He carefully looked at Tu Qianjuan's gloomy face and stood up. He closed the folding fan in his hand and frowned. He cupped his hands and said, "Young Lady Qingqing, isn't this decision a little too rash? I think it's better to be cautious with such a decision." Yu Qingqing, who was wearing a peach blossom and a peach-colored palace dress, knew that there would definitely be people who would oppose and question her decision. However, she didn't expect that the first one to speak was actually Xue Wuhan, who had been low-key for the whole night. Furthermore, his high-profile appearance wasn't for himself, but for Tu Qianjun, who was beside him. A trace of disgust flashed through Yu Qingqing's heart. Furthermore, it was displayed on her face without any concealment. She coldly said, "Young Master Xue, are you lecturing me?" Once Yu Qingqing's words left her mouth, Xue Wuhan's complexion changed. Even Xue Fei, who was sitting at the head of the table, looked a little pale. Meanwhile, Yu Ji continued to stand beside Yi Qinghan and pretended not to have heard anything. Xue Wuhan saw that Yu Ji's complexion was the same as before, but Tu Qianjuan's complexion was getting worse. Yu Qingqing's pearl-like eyes were coldly staring at him, waiting for his reply. He could only summon up his courage and awkwardly said, "I don't dare. It's just that I feel that it's better to ask your clan's elders for such an important decision. This decision, I have considered it very carefully." After a moment of silence, Yu Qingqing faintly said, "As for the elders' opinions, I can tell everyone that I have just received a sound transmission. The meaning of this sound transmission is exactly the same as my decision. And the person who sent this sound transmission is our Yu clan's clan leader. I think everyone should be satisfied with this explanation. Yu Qingqing's words were like a bomb that exploded in the field. The Yu clan's clan leader had always been elusive and rarely appeared in front of the common people. However, her peerless beauty and peerless strength, as well as her charming techniques, have been circulating in the House of Aries for a very long time. Today, she actually sent a sound transmission to Yu Qingqing. It seemed that this clan leader valued Yi Qinghan very much. Qingqing is right. The clan leader has also sent a sound transmission to me. Moreover, I also support Qingqing's choice. Everyone, I'm sorry. Yu Ji, who had been silent all this time, suddenly opened her mouth. She looked at Tu Qianjun with an apologetic expression. Her words completely severed the last remnant hope in his heart. Since it's like this, Qianjun will take his leave. After Yu Qingqing announced the result, Tu Qianjun remained silent. Now that Yu Ji had spoken, he knew that there was absolutely no hope for him today. He looked coldly at Yi Qinghan, seemingly unable to conceal the jealousy and resentment in his eyes. After he finished speaking, he directly leaped onto the winged dragon. Then, he looked deeply at Yu Qingqing, smiled coldly, and commanded the winged dragon to soar through the sky. Yunyang, please invite all the young masters and elders to the Moon Lodge to have a good rest and entertain them well. After Tu Qianjun soared through the sky and left, Yu Ji once again ordered to arrange for all the young masters to leave the calm Lake Island. It was the same for every Summer Fire Festival. Once the Summer Fire Festival ended, apart from the man chosen by the Holy Maiden, no one else was allowed to stay on the calm lake. Everyone looked at Yi Qinghan, who was standing quietly in the field with complicated expressions. Some were envious, some were jealous, some were resentful, and most of them were puzzled. However, since their master had already given the order, it wasn't appropriate for them to ask too much. They could only think of a way to snatch one of the 12 Calm Lake girls. Young Master Han, congratulations. You're very good, Brad. Although I'm very jealous and resentful of you, at least the fertile water didn't flow to the Divine City. I'm still very happy about this. Fengzi walked out with a cup of wine and stood in front of Yi Qinghan. She raised her head and drank it in one gulp. Her expression was a little lonely and disappointed. No need. Yi Qinghan shook his head slightly and pushed Fengzi's body away. He looked at Yu Ji and said very seriously, Elder Yu Ji, you've forgotten something. I don't think you've asked me, the person involved, for my opinion. I didn't agree to be your clan's son-in-law. Chapter 68. Ugh. Everyone who was just about to leave suddenly turned their heads, as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight when they suddenly heard this. They blinked their big eyes, trying to see if Yi Qinghan was drunk or if he had a fever and was talking nonsense. Seeing Yi Qinghan's incomparably serious expression, everyone knew that he was actually serious. Stinking brat, what did you say? Ever since Yu Qingqing announced the results, Yi Qingyo had been grinning from ear to ear. Just a moment ago, he was still chatting with the Feng clan elder. When he suddenly heard Yi Qinghan's words, he glared at her, his eyeballs almost popping out of their sockets as he angrily rebuked her. Yu Qingqing blushed when she heard this. Yi Qinghan's sword dance today made her think that Yi Qinghan's previous actions were all to loosen the reins only to grasp them better. Today, he came out to perform because he liked her. Therefore, when she received the Patriarch's voice transmission, she disregarded her girl's modesty and resolutely stood out. She said those embarrassing words in order to move Yi Qinghan's heart even more. Who would have thought that at this moment, Yi Qinghan actually acted out the scene of Yi Dao rejecting Yu Yin in front of her? How could she endure this? When Yu Ji heard Yi Qinghan's incomparably serious words, she couldn't help but recall that 15 years ago, Yi Dao also rejected Yu Yin in the same way. Like father, like son, a Yu clan girl owed a Yi clan when she was born? She sighed inwardly, thought for a moment, and said, That's right, it was my negligence. But why did young Master Han reject? Is Qingqing not good enough? Young Master Han doesn't like it? Grand Elder, this is Qinghan's private matter. I hope you won't interfere. Yi Qinghan first cupped his hands at Yi Qingyo and said with a resolute tone. Then, he looked at Yu Qingcheng with some guilt and turned to Yu Ji. Elder Yu Ji, Qinghan has no intention of offending the Yu clan's dignity. Moreover, young lady Qingcheng is very good in all aspects and is worthy of the name Qingcheng. However, Yi Qinghan already had a fiancé, so forgive me, but I can't agree. As he spoke, Yi Qinghan let out a deep sigh. He raised his head and looked at the southern sky. It was as if he could see through the stars and see the weak, white-haired, white-clothed woman lying on the bed. Brat, when did you get a wife? Nonsense. Yi Qingyo's eyes seemed to bulge even more when he heard this. However, halfway through his words, he saw the desolate expression on Yi Qinghan's face and seemed to think of something. He stopped his outburst and paused for a moment, then rubbed his head and continued, even if you want to marry Yi Qingyu, you can also marry Yu Qingcheng. Fengzi and Hua Hua also rolled their eyes. In the Fire Dragon continent, even a normal man with a bit of money would have multiple wives, let alone their status. This excuse was too lousy. Why fiancé? That's the only reason? Yu Ji looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. She thought to herself, even if you want to reject, you have to find a reason. In the Fire Dragon continent, the strong were respected. It was normal for a man to have multiple wives. So she immediately said, it's all right. Qingcheng, I think she won't mind. Also, I think that if you marry Yu Qingcheng, it will be very important for your future career development. I think your fiancé at home will also agree to this marriage. Am I right, Elder Green Bull? Yu Qingcheng was originally embarrassed and angry, but seeing that Yi Qinghan did not seem to be lying, and seeing Yi Qinghan's desolate expression as he looked up at the starry sky, it seemed to have touched a certain soft spot in her heart. She was no longer angry. Instead, she looked hopefully at Yi Qinghan, waiting for his explanation. Her black pearl-like eyes were shining, and her cherry lips were slightly open. Her pitiful expression made people unable to bear to hurt her. Yi Qinghan saw everyone looking at him like a tiger watching its prey. He knew that if he did not give an explanation today, he would not be able to leave this calm lake island. He somewhat admired his father, Yi Dao. Back then, he rejected Yu Yin Er's offer to leave the calm lake island. He touched his nose and thought for a moment. Then, he looked up at Yu Qingcheng and Yu Ji. Elder Yu Ji, Miss Qingcheng, I really don't know how to explain. Let me put it this way, my fiancée almost died because of me, and she's still unconscious right now. She's still waiting for me to use a type of treasure to save her. My beloved woman is still in a deep sleep. Do you think I will be in the mood to marry again? To have another romance? Furthermore, Lady Qingcheng and I are not familiar with each other yet. It can be said that we have no feelings for each other. I am not familiar with her personality, and she does not understand my situation. It is unfair for both of us to get together in such a hurry. A marriage without love will never be a happy one. Yi Qinghan's words stunned everyone. They looked at Yi Qinghan's serious expression and Yi Qingyo's lowered head and sighed. In the end, everyone believed that Yi Qinghan really did have a fiancé who was in a coma at home. They also felt admiration for his persistence. However, towards the latter part of Yi Qinghan's words, all the young masters raised their middle fingers in their hearts. Feelings, love? Was there such a thing? In the minds of the men of the Fire Dragon continent, the feelings and love of a woman were all nurtured in bed. Wouldn't a man treat a beauty like Yu Qingcheng as a treasure if they slept with her? Wasn't love something that came out of nowhere? However, Yi Qinghan's novel words had a completely different feeling in Yu Ji and Yu Qingcheng's ears. Looking at Yi Qinghan's deep eyes and feeling the emotions from this little man's heart, Yu Qingcheng's initial admiration for Yi Qinghan completely turned into the ignorant heart of a young girl at this moment. Yu Ji was like a mother-in-law looking at her son-in-law. The more she looked at Yi Qinghan, the more satisfied she was. This man was willing to reject a beauty like Yu Qingcheng for the woman he loved. His temperament was rare. As for love and feelings, she had always believed that once a woman of the Yu family married over, the man's heart could only revolve around her. With Yu Qingcheng's seduction arts and the skills she had learned to serve men since young, She believed that no man would not fall under her skirt. If that's the case, I don't think this is a problem. What do you think? Yuji pondered for a while and came up with a compromise. If you want to save your fiancé, we won't object. Furthermore, our Yu family will do our best to help you achieve this goal. But you have to promise me, give Qingqing a chance and also give the Yu family a chance. You two get along well. If your fiancé is cured and you two get along well, then you two get married. How about that? Feng Zihua and Long Shuelu looked at each other, each of them seeing deep jealousy and envy in the other's eyes. They had encountered similar situations before. Some small families had done the same thing in order to form a marriage alliance with them. Only, when did the Yu family's saintess become so worthless? Giving a woman to Yi Qinghan and still afraid that Yi Qinghan wouldn't want it, they still had to coax Yi Qinghan. Not only did they offer very generous conditions, they even sent their daughter to dress Yi Qinghan for a period of time. They clearly said, if you like it, then you can keep it. If you're not used to it, it's fine, you can just return it. Little sister Yuji, how can we do this? Sigh. This little brat, it's all because we didn't teach him well. Old brother feels guilty. Yi Qingyo rubbed his hands and said with some embarrassment, but he couldn't hide the smile in his eyes, causing the two old men from the Feng and Hua families to almost explode. Like this? Yi Qinghan also rubbed his hands, but he was truly embarrassed. He looked at the peach blossom with some shame and said very sincerely, "This is very unfair to young Lady Qingqing. What virtue does Yi Qinghan have to make the Yu family treat me like this?" Psst. The moment Yi Qinghan said this, the surrounding young masters all booed. This brat was too good at pretending. Did he want everyone in the Yu family to kneel and beg him? They had seen shameless people, but they had never seen someone so shameless. Feng Zihua clenched his fists. If not for the Grand Elder being present, he would have already rushed up to beat him up. Cough, cough. Yi Qingyo coughed rapidly and kept winking at Yi Qinghan. Seeing that Yi Qinghan was unmoved, he was so angry that he stomped his feet. Yu Qingqing looked at Yi Qinghan's sincere eyes and felt a sense of tenderness in her heart. She didn't seem to think that Yi Qinghan was pretending and acting at all. She had been trained to serve men since she was young and how to read their expressions. She didn't feel that Yi Qinghan's words were from the bottom of his heart. Furthermore, her current mood was that if Yi Qinghan's acting skills were so superb, she would rather be deceived. So she bit her lip and said softly with a red face, "I am willing." Yi Qinghan lowered his head helplessly. He couldn't be so heartless to a beauty who was treating him like this. If he still dared to refuse such conditions, he would definitely be beaten into a pig's head by everyone present. After thinking for a moment, he ignored the murderous gazes of the crowd and rubbed his chin. He spoke again in embarrassment. "I am very confused. Although I am very outstanding, it is not enough for the Yu family to treat me like this. Can you tell me the reason?" The young masters once again booed in unison. Shameless, so shameless. However, they were still very curious. Just what did the Yu family see in Yi Qinghan? "Forgive me for keeping this a secret for now. You will know in the future." Yu Ji and Yu Qingqing looked at each other and said with a smile. Then, she smiled slightly and looked at Yi Qinghan coquettishly. She said in a soft voice, "Have you considered the matter of taking me as your master just now? Of course you are extremely important to the Yu family." Yu Qingqing also smiled and said in her heart. Seeing Yu Ji move to Yi Qinghan's side like a child, she smiled even more happily. The peach blossom on her head seemed to bloom even more brightly with her smile. Chapter 69. The silvery moon hung high in the night sky. Although it was already late at night, the entire Ecstasy City was still bustling with noise. This was a city without night. City center, Moon Tower. All the young masters and great elders were politely escorted here by the Yu family to rest. The summer fire festival was over. Other than the saintess's guardian, no man could stay at the tranquil lake. This was a rule left by the founder of the Yu family, the Moon Queen. The Yu family had followed it for generations, and this time was no exception. The Moon Tower was divided into 3 parts, covering an area of dozens of hectares. It was said that there were 9,900 rooms inside. The front yard was used to entertain guests from all over the world. The middle yard was made up of 9 pavilions of different sizes, used to entertain distinguished guests. The backyard was where the manager of the Moon Tower lived. The Moon Tower was the top entertainment place in the entire House of Aries, or rather, the entire continent. The front yard took up 2/3 of the Moon Tower, with 3 floors and 9,000 rooms. Every day, thousands of guests came from all over the world to spend their semen and crystal coins here. This brought a steady stream of wealth to the Yu family. The Yu family was undoubtedly the wealthiest among the 5 major families. Yi Qinghan sat quietly in one of the pavilions, listening to the manager of the Moon Tower explain the situation of the Moon Tower in detail. He looked calm on the surface, but he was secretly speechless. Tonight, he did not stay on Tranquil Lake Island. Instead, he followed the crowd to the Moon Tower. It was not that he was pretentious and did not want to sleep on Yu Qingqing's bed, which all men on the continent wanted to sleep on. In fact, he was just like any other man. He could not resist the temptation of the poisonous peach blossom. In Barbarian City, he went to the bed of that coquettish lady boss without any hesitation. However, he felt that Yi Qingyu had been sleeping in the Yi family's back mountain for him. Now that he had gone to someone else's bed after leaving the Yi family, he would definitely not forgive himself. Moreover, the peach blossom was indeed poisonous. He was afraid that he would never come down from that bed. Therefore, he left in a hurry and went to the Moon Tower. The Yu family treated him very well. The pavilion was only opened when the Yu family received their most respected guests. The decorations inside were the best in the continent. Yi Qinghan secretly glanced at them. Even the chamber pot behind the screen was carved out of jade. Yunyang had accompanied him all the way here, and had even introduced the situation of the Yu clan to him along the way. Presumably, the higher-ups of the Yu clan had already given him a position as a guest elder. "Young master, let's rest here tonight. If you need anything, you can just call the maids outside. They will satisfy all your requests." Yunyang's expression was respectful, and her attitude was very respectful. She knew how much her family valued the youth in front of her, so when it came to etiquette, she could not be picky at all. All right, sorry for troubling you, Yunyang. Go and do your work." Yi Qinghan smiled and nodded, indicating that he was satisfied with her service. Yunyang bowed again and retreated. The room returned to silence. Yi Qinghan scratched his head and sat on the tea table. He poured 2 cups of tea and said to the person behind the screen, "Elder Azurox, since you're here, come and have a cup of tea." A tall figure walked out from behind the screen. As he walked over, he constantly complimented the decorations in the room. His mouth made clicking sounds as he sat in front of Yi Qinghan without any trace of politeness. He picked up the cup of tea and took a sip. His face was full of enjoyment as he said, "Good tea, good tea. Only the Yu clan can afford to drink this dragon saliva tea. I, Old Ox, have only drunk it a few times in my life. I didn't expect the Yu clan to treat you like ordinary tea. You're really lucky, Brad. Old man, will you die if you don't brag? With your status, you think you can't even drink this lousy tea?" Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. He had always held a grudge against the old fogies of the Yi clan. He had originally planned to go to Dragon City to participate in the Elite Academy tournament, but he didn't expect that these old fogies would arrange for him to participate in the Tranquil Lake selection without his consent. Of course, he had some resentment. Now that he was sitting alone with Yi Qinghan, he naturally expressed the resentment hidden in the bottom of his heart. "This time, I arranged for you to come to the Tranquil Lake without your consent. It was my fault, but I also did it for the good of your sister. With the support of the Yu clan, the chances of waking up your sister will increase by quite a bit, and it will also be of great help to your future development." Yi Qinghan rubbed his hands and laughed mischievously. "You're so sure that I'll be chosen?" Yi Qinghan snorted coldly. He lowered his head and drank his tea, glancing sideways at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan laughed mischievously. He was in an extremely good mood, and his wrinkled old face was flushed red. At first, I thought that you only had a 1/3 chance, but then 2 Qinjun came, and I thought that you had no chance at all. But, who would have thought that you, brat, would have such a trick up your sleeve? Not bad, not bad. Little Han, well done. You have to know that being able to obtain the position of guest elder of the Yu clan would be extremely beneficial to your future growth. If that idiot father of yours had chosen the Holy Maiden, that brat wouldn't have died on the God-slaying mountain. If my father had chosen Yu Yin, I wouldn't be here now. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes again. He lowered his head and pondered for a while, then suddenly raised his head and asked, "Why did the Yu clan choose me? Don't say that my sword dance was very coquettish or anything of the sort. I want to know the real reason." Seeing Yi Qinghan's serious expression, Yi Qinghan stopped laughing and thought seriously for a while. He frowned slightly and said, "I don't know the specific reason, but do you remember that when you were performing that sword dance, you, brat, were actually able to draw upon the spirit chi of heaven and earth? Do you remember that sudden gust of wind?" At that time, I was completely silent and didn't know anything that happened outside. I only know that I performed that dance very comfortably. My whole body was very relaxed, and my mind was very calm and serene. It seemed that I was in a very good state. Yi Qinghan also frowned and tried hard to recall what happened at that time. Yi Qinghu rubbed his round head and became all smiles again. He said, "That's the feeling. I don't know what kind of dog shit luck you have, brat. Did you know that at that time, you entered the state of soul silence that all martial artists dream of? A martial artist's first layer of cultivation is physical cultivation, which includes the tempering of battle chi and the internal body. The second layer is soul cultivation. Of course, with your current strength, your soul is too weak. Basically, your soul can improve along with your battle chi. However, once you enter the Emperor realm, your soul must cultivate alone, and soul cultivation is extremely difficult. When you performed that sword dance on Tranquil Lake Island, your mind was completely silent and drew upon the spirit chi of heaven and earth. This is an extremely rare state. The martial artists of our level call it the state of soul silence. As long as you can enter this state often, your cultivation will definitely advance by leaps and bounds. Furthermore, the most important thing was his soul. In this state, his soul cultivation would increase at a rate that was 10 times faster. The Yu clan attaches great importance to soul cultivation, and all of their special techniques are based on the soul. Why do you think the Yu clan values you so much? Soul cultivation? The Yu clan seduction technique? Yi Qinghan was a bit confused and blurted it out subconsciously. Bullsh *T. The Yu clan special technique is a spiritual attack, and they are most famous for their illusion attacks. Back in the day, the Moon Queen's illusion could make experts at the peak of the Sage realm directly commit suicide. The Moon Queen was the only martial artist at that time who could enter the state of soul silence. Her soul cultivation could be said to be at the peak. The Yu clan seduction technique is just something that the younger generation of the Moon Queen created to make money. You have to remember, in the future, you have to try your best to enter the feeling you had when you were dancing on Tranquil Lake Island. That state will be correct. This time, you have only been in there for a short time, so you might not be able to feel the benefits to your cultivation. You will understand in the future. Remember, you have to try more and try to find a way to control this state. You have to be able to control the state of soul silence. With the help of the Yu clan, you will be the second Moon Queen, or even surpass her. Yi Qinghan stood up and said cautiously. His eyes did not seem to hide the admiration and love he had for Yi Qinghan. Tranquil Lake Island, North Court. In an elegant room, Yu Qingqing looked respectfully at a white figure in front of her. Her eyes were filled with respect and adoration. The white figure's back was facing Yu Qingqing, leaving behind a curvy back and a head full of black hair. "Qingqing, I want you to choose Yi Qinghan. You won't blame me, right?" The white figure did not turn around. He only spoke lightly. His voice was cold, but it was very pleasant to the ears. "Clan leader, of course Qingqing won't blame you. Actually, among so many young masters, only Yi Qinghan has a special characteristic that can attract Qingqing. Qingqing is very satisfied with this ending." Yu Qingqing lowered her head and pondered for a moment. Suddenly, she raised her hand. Her black and shiny eyes flashed, and a hint of gentleness appeared at the corner of her mouth as she spoke softly. "That's good. I can tell you that in the entire continent's thousands of years, Yi Qinghan is the second person to enter the soul silent state. The Moon Queen said in her last words that she entered this state for the first time in her 30s. And how old is Yi Qinghan now? This child's future is limitless. It is very likely that he will be the first person to walk out of the Fire Dragon continent. Therefore, the Yu clan must seize this opportunity. Since you also like him, and he doesn't hate you, then tomorrow, you should go with him to Dragon City. For the sake of the Yu family and your future, do your best to capture his heart. The white figure's voice was still cold, but her words revealed a bit of emotion and excitement. Yes, Yu Qingqing nodded lightly. Her eyes were filled with joy and longing for the future. Her black pearl-like eyes occasionally flashed with light that was as dazzling as the stars in the sky. Moon Tower, Square Pavilion. Xue Fei sat on the bench with a gloomy face. He looked at Xue Wuhan, who was standing respectfully in front of him. After a long silence, he sighed deeply and said, "Your thoughts are not wrong. It's just that your actions are too radical. This will cause the Xue clan to be ostracized by the 5 great clans." Forget it. Since things have already reached this point, I can't say whether it's a blessing or a curse. Since you want to walk the path of Tu Qianjun, then keep walking. I hope you're right. Wu Hen is right. To walk out of the well that is the Fire Dragon continent, there is no other way but to borrow the power of the Divine City. As for the 5 great clans, as long as I can reach that step, the 5 great clans can be destroyed at any time. Second Grandpa, you must believe me. Xue Wuhan said lightly, but the arrogance and insolence in his words were unmistakable. Forget it, let's not talk about this anymore. Xue Fei sighed as he stared at the stubborn Xue Wuheng. Suddenly, a vicious glint flashed across his eyes as he scanned his surroundings. His lips trembled as he spoke in a low voice. Yi Qinghan, since you've already formed a grudge with this person, then you must protect yourself in the sect battle and think of a way to secretly eliminate him. Yes. Xue Wuhan's eyes flashed with a trace of ruthlessness, and he nodded heavily. Chapter 70. The next day, before dawn, a row of luxurious carriages appeared in front of the Moon Tower. The pedestrians who had woken up early were shocked to see such a long line of carriages. Luxurious carriages were not rare in Ecstasy City, but it was the first time they had seen such a long line of luxurious carriages. However, when they saw the flags of the 5 major families fluttering on the carriages, they thought of the upcoming elite mansion battle and suddenly realized that it was not so strange. 30th Night, 17th Night, and the Grim Reaper squad were in a good mood. They had stayed in the Moon Tower of Ecstasy City for a few days and enjoyed the warm hospitality of the Yu family, which ordinary guests could not enjoy. Anyone would be in a good mood. Most importantly, the top-notch hospitality was paid for by the Yu family. Therefore, when they saw Yi Qinghan's delicate and pretty little face, they all smiled at the same time, a little coquettishly and a little fawning. The carriages were already slowly moving toward the north gate of Ecstasy City. Everyone looked at the tall loft of the Moon Tower and the huge plaque through the curtain. Their hearts echoed with the promise that Yi Qinghan had made when he boarded the carriage. They could not help but feel excited. As long as you can come back alive, I will let you stay in the Moon Tower for a month. And whoever contributes the most in the Elite Mansion battle will be given a month's special package. Now let's go kill. A month's special package. 30th Night and 17th Night thought of Yi Qinghan's words and could not help but feel excited. Special package. They had only enjoyed the first-class package once this time. The first-class package was enough to make them want to die, and it was enough to make them remember for a lifetime. Now he actually said that he would give them a special package. And for a month. Yi Qinghan's move was too ruthless. If he did this, people would die. Of course, they felt that Yi Qinghan's proposal was very good and very feasible. Looking at the Grim Reaper squad, who kept poking their heads out of the carriages as if they had taken aphrodisiacs, 30th Night sighed helplessly. At the same time, he admired Yi Qinghan, who was sleeping soundly in the carriage. Although they couldn't enter Tranquil Lake Island, they heard about their young master's glorious deeds on the island. Young Master was even more ferocious than Young Master's father. Although Young Master's father, Yi Dao, had also rejected the previous generation's saintess and left in a huff, the Yu clan did not do anything. And now, the Young Master had also rejected the saintess of the modern era. However, the Yu clan was still trying their best to coax him. They were almost crying and grabbing the Young Master's trousers to ask him to accept this saintess, Yu Qingsheng. Why did he say that? Wasn't the 5U family carriages hanging behind the caravan a very good proof? The Ecstasy City was not far from the Dragon City, only 5 to 6 days' journey. The carriages of the 5 clans and Long Shuelio's carriage were traveling on the broad road silently. Perhaps those young masters were too tired last night, or for some other reason, they had been sitting in their carriages silently for the first day. They didn't come out, even eating and defecating in their carriages. On the second day, the young masters began to come out to get some fresh air while eating. Hua Xia, Feng Zi, and Long Shuelu had rested for a day and a night. It was as if they had completely forgotten the unhappiness of the night of the Summer Fire Festival. They were all chatting and laughing around a simple dining table, drinking the fine wine brought from the carriages, eating barbecued meat, and casually chatting about some topics. At this time, Feng Zi raised her eyebrows and looked into the distance. A figure was walking over, and she said with a smile, "Young Master Han seems to be very busy. He doesn't even have time to eat." The person walking over was Dongfang Dao. Dongfang Dao and the other 4 had been following Yi Qinghan ever since they left Tranquil Lake Island. Yi Qinghan had asked Yi Qingyou and was reassured to let the 5 follow him. However, he wasn't as close as he was with Yi Shisan for the time being. Dongfang Dao and the others didn't mind and just silently sat in the carriage behind Yi Qinghan. Today, they were out for a meal. Feng Zi wanted to invite Yi Qinghan out for a drink, so she asked Dongfang Dao to invite them. Young Master Feng, Young Master Hua, Young Master Long. My young master said that he's going into seclusion for a few days, so he's very sorry that he can't accompany you for a drink. He said that he wants me to apologize on his behalf. After this cultivation, he'll punish himself with a jar of wine as an apology. Dongfang Dao seemed to have changed from the status of a young master to a servant. In just one day, he had completely accepted his status as a subordinate of Yi Qinghan, and his tone and etiquette were completely that of a servant. Dongfang Dao, you're a talent. Are you willing to be a subordinate of the Yi family? Feng Zi waved her hand, indicating that she didn't mind this matter. Instead, she looked curiously at Dongfang Dao. He had only found out from the information sent over by his clan today that Dongfang Dao and the other 4 and their clans had always kept a low profile. However, the shocking thing was that all 5 of them were at the 3rd level of the general realm. At this age, with this level of strength, they were all characters who could dominate a region. And looking at Dongfang Dao's expression today, it seemed that he was very willing to be Yi Qinghan's servant. That's right, Brother Dongfang, with the strength of the 5 of you, you're all dazzling geniuses no matter where you go. If the 5 of you follow me, I will serve you as an elder brother and a state scholar. Why should I follow Yi Qinghan as a servant? Moreover, it seems like Yi Qinghan doesn't like it. Long Shuelu also said in confusion. He chuckled and tried to poach someone from the wall. Thank you for your favor, young Master Feng, but young Master Long, I don't want to hear such words ever again. The fathers of Dongfang Dao and the other 4 were all saved by Master Yi Dao, and they have already sworn to serve Master's family for generations. Moreover, even if you want to be a servant, you have to look at whose servant you are, right? And the 5 of us feel that it is our fortune to be able to be young Master Yi Qinghan's servants. Dongfang Dao's expression was still calm, but when he heard the word servant from Long Shuelio's mouth, a blade-like sword light appeared in his eyes. He cupped his hands and left calmly after speaking. He walked to the side and silently ate with Nangong and the others. Long Shuelu was choked by Dongfang Dao's words. He rubbed his nose embarrassedly and picked up his wine to drink. Brother Shuelu, if it were me, I wouldn't have said what you just said. You probably haven't seen the information on what Yi Qinghan has done in the Yi family. Yi Qinghan is very fierce. The reason why Dongfang Dao and the other four are so loyal to him is probably because of Yi Qinghan's performance. Seeing Long Shuelio's embarrassment, Feng Zi smiled faintly and twisted his neck as he spoke. This kid is indeed fierce. Brother Shuelu, let me give you a piece of advice. You can't befriend him, and it's best not to offend him. Hua Hua hadn't said anything at first, but when he saw Long Shuelio's confused expression, he advised him seriously. Long Shuelu frowned. He was the nephew of House Master Long, but he wasn't like Feng Zi and the others. He didn't have a direct intelligence system, so he was very confused. How fierce! Feng Zi drank a mouthful of wine, looked left and right, then came over and said in a low voice, this kid was still in the elite realm a few months ago. He couldn't even summon a beast and was considered trash by the Yi family. Then, in these few months, his strength increased by leaps and bounds. First, he killed 5 of Shui Wuhan's subordinates with the strength of a level 1 commander in the barbarian city. One of them was a general realm expert. After returning to the Yi family, he killed a few general realm Yi family core disciples and destroyed Yi Qinghuang's Dantian. In the end, he was surrounded by the elders of the Yi family, but they didn't kill him. Instead, he killed an Emperor Realm Yi Rong, which caused Yi Tianlong and the other 2 elders to come out of their seclusion. However, I don't know why Yi Tianlong didn't punish Yi Qinghan even though he killed so many people. Instead, he imprisoned Yi Jin in the back mountain and chased Yi Qinghuang out of the Yi family's castle. Now, look at Yi Qingyo. It's obvious that the Yi family treats him like a treasure. Don't you think he's fierce? Long Shuelu was slowly drinking wine at first, but when he heard that Yi Qinghan killed an Emperor Realm Yi Rong, he spat out the wine in his mouth. His face was full of shock and disbelief. After listening to Feng Zi, he shook his head and said, that's impossible. How old is he? A 15 or 16-year-old killing an Emperor Realm martial artist. This information is obviously fake. Also, you said that he was just an elite realm trash a few months ago. How could he kill an Emperor Realm martial artist? Impossible. At this time, Hua Xia also came over. Although his eyes were full of doubt, his face was serious as he said, the information is true. Our family received similar information. Although we don't know the details, it is true that Yi Qinghan killed Yi Rong. This caused a huge commotion in the Yi family, and your uncle probably received the news. Our family told you not to offend Yi Qinghan. If you offend him, he won't care about anything and just kill you. According to my family's calculations, he can instantly kill any martial artist below the martial realm. He has a high chance of instantly killing a martial realm martial artist. As for the specific reason, I don't know. Clang! Hearing Hua Xiao's confirmation, Long Shuelio's hand shook. The cup fell to the ground and broke into pieces. His palms were sweaty. He recalled how arrogantly he challenged Yi Qinghan to a duel in the Yu building. In the end, Yi Qinghan knocked him out with one punch. He didn't believe Dragon Fifth when he said that Yi Qinghan held back. Now, it seemed like he was back from the Grim Reaper. Also, Yi Qinghan was chosen as a guest elder by the Yu family. It could be said that the 2 families were one. Long Shuelu wanted to find a chance to take revenge, but it seemed like it was impossible now. Thinking about this, his body trembled. He immediately listed Yi Qinghan as one of the people he couldn't offend. Of course, Yi Qinghan wasn't showing off. He was cultivating. Dragon City was getting closer and closer, so he had to seize the time to cultivate. Although he had entered the first stage of the general realm for a few days, he hadn't even learned the symbolic battle aura release of the general realm. Therefore, after resting for a day, he told Yi 13th that he wanted to go into seclusion for a few days so that he could learn the battle aura release before he arrived at Dragon City. Chapter 71. Actually, the principle of releasing battle chi was very simple. Any warrior who could cultivate would know how to do it. Of course, Yi Qinghan knew how to do it. Additionally, Yi Tianlong had given him a pile of secret books before he came here, including the fastest and fiercest way to release battle chi. Battle chi was transformed by absorbing the spiritual chi from the sky and the earth through a special method. Before human beings broke through their meridians, they could only slowly run their battle chi through their cells. Therefore, they could run their battle chi to all parts of their bodies through their cells and release battle chi through their cells. However, before human beings broke through their meridians and formed their dantian, they had too little battle chi in their bodies and their running speed was too slow. Therefore, even if they released battle chi, they could only release weak battle chi energy, which could not be condensed at all, not to mention injuring people. After a martial artist opened up his meridians and condensed his dantian. Additionally, the 12 meridians and dantian would form a perfect circulation. Therefore, battle chi could constantly run to all parts of the body through the meridians. Therefore, it would be easier to release battle chi. Additionally, the released battle chi could be constantly replenished and condensed into terrifying energy crystals, which could injure the enemy or cause severe damage through energy explosion. In the spacious carriage, Yi Qinghan was sitting on the bed with his legs crossed and eyes closed. The dense sounds of horse hooves and rolling wheels couldn't affect him at all. He was concentrating on his meridians and dantian. He separated a bit of battle chi from his circulating battle chi and slowly moved it towards his 5 fingers on his left hand. The meridians of human body were complex, but the 10 fingers were the closest to the skin and had the most meridians. Additionally, each finger was connected with a small meridian. Therefore, most of the fighters on the continent chose to release their battle chi through their 10 fingers. In other words, they chose to release battle chi through their palms. In this way, it was fast and easy to control. Of course, Yi Qinghan chose to release battle chi through his 10 fingers like the predecessors. A small amount of battle chi slowly overflowed from his 5 fingers and gradually condensed in his palm. Yi Qinghan dared not be careless. He constantly released battle chi through his 5 fingers and maintained the consumption of battle chi in the air. Through his palm and fingers, he constantly condensed and integrated the battle chi in his palm. Buzz! The battle chi in Yi Qinghan's palm was constantly compressed and integrated with the weird gesture of his palm and fingers. In a split second, the battle chi in his palm suddenly bounced up like an elastic rubber ball and disappeared in the air under Yi Qinghan's weird gesture. It seems that the most difficult part of releasing battle chi is to control it. Yi Qinghan slightly opened his eyes and looked at his empty palms as he muttered inside. He didn't feel discouraged at all, even though he failed in releasing his battle chi for the first time. It didn't require too much technical content. It mainly depended on the proficiency of controlling the battle chi in the palm of one's mind. There was no shortcut to this thing. One could only constantly release battle chi, constantly control it, gradually master it, and gradually master it. Again, Yi Qinghan continued to close his eyes and continued to practice the external aspects of battle chi. 2 times, 3 times, 50 times. 1 day, 2 days, 4 days. On the evening of the 5th day, Yi Qinghan finally walked out of the carriage. He stretched his rusty waist and let out a long breath. He turned to look at Feng Zi and the others who were sitting not far away and smiled as he jumped out of the carriage. "Young master, have you finished your cultivation?" Yi 17 had been guarding the carriage. When he saw Yi Qinghan walk out of the carriage, he greeted him with a smile. "Yes, let's go. Accompany me for a drink." Yi Qinghan finally mastered the external release of battle chi after a few days of boredom. He was in a good mood as he waved his hand and walked towards a fire cart in the distance. Young Master Han, sit here." Young Master Han is really diligent in cultivation. "Greetings, young master." "Greetings, young master." The people sitting in the distance saw Yi Qinghan walking over. Feng Zi and Hua hurriedly stood up and greeted him. The members of the Reaper squad stood up neatly and shouted in a deep voice. Dongfang Dao, Nangong Chong, and the others hurriedly dropped the food in their hands and greeted him. "What are you doing?" I said there's no need to be so polite. Go back and eat and drink. I'm going to have a chat with young Master Feng and the others. Yi Qinghan's eyes widened as he stopped Dongfang Dao and the others. He waved his hand and signaled for Yi 17 to do as he pleased. He then walked towards Feng Zi and Hua. Feng Zi, Hua Hua, Long Shui Lu, prepare some wine. I'm here to apologize. Okay. Old Feng, like young Master Han's personality. Let's drink until we're drunk. Feng Zi slammed the table and laughed, signaling for the servants to prepare wine. Lunatic, be gentle. This isn't your marble table. If you break it, you'll have to eat on the floor in 2 days. Hua Hua glared at Feng Zi, then turned around and smiled at Yi Qinghan. You're right. Yes, young Master Feng. You slammed the table when you saw young Master Han. You should punish yourself with a jug. Although Long Shuilu didn't stand up to greet Yi Qinghan, his tone was slightly ingratiating. A jug? Who's afraid of who? Do you think I won't flirt with you tonight? Feng Zi's eyes widened, and he wanted to slap the table again. However, he remembered Hua Hua's words and slapped his thigh embarrassedly. You all seem to be in high spirits. I wonder if Qing Cheng will have the honor of drinking with you all? A crisp voice like that of an oriole sounded from afar. They all looked over and saw a white figure floating over with a faint fragrance. They all had an awkward expression on their faces. What? Young masters don't like me coming. Yu Qingcheng was dressed in a white dress with a white scarf covering her face. Her pearl-black eyes twinkled like a fairy that came out of the forest. How could that be? Look at what you're saying. Sister-in-law, we're so happy that you can come. Feng Zi was the first to react. He quickly pulled out a stool from the side and patted it, gesturing for Yu Qingcheng to sit down. A row of black lines appeared on Yi Qinghan's face. He glared at Feng Zi and rubbed his hands even more awkwardly. He forced a smile at Yu Qingcheng and said, Miss Qingcheng, have a seat. Yes, sister-in-law, please sit. Hua Hua and Long Shuilu also reacted. They suppressed their disappointment and said with a smile. Compared to Yi Qinghan's awkwardness, Yu Qingcheng was much more natural. She ignored the gazes from the side in the distance and sat down. She smiled and said softly, I'll just call you Qingcheng. Sister-in-law sounds awkward. Miss Qingcheng, you'll have to call me sister-in-law sooner or later. Since you're not used to it, I'll do as you say. Come over for a drink. But there's only wine here. It's not convenient for you to drink with a scarf on, right? Feng Zi seemed to have recovered from the disappointment of her failed marriage proposal. She was talking and laughing calmly. Then why don't we just call young Master Han to drink? Long Shuilu laughed mischievously. His smile was very bright and cheerful. It seemed that he wanted to completely get Yi Qinghan drunk. He had lost in the arena of love and the arena of martial arts, so he wanted to win it back in the arena of wine. It's a little inconvenient. Hua Hua looked at Yi Qinghan with a sinister smile. He wanted him to express his stance. If it's not convenient, then don't drink. I'll pay for his. Come, I'll punish myself by drinking this jar first. Yi Qinghan's lips curled up. He raised the jar of wine in his hand and raised it to the few of them. Then, he raised his head and drank. The people of the Fire Dragon continent had been practicing martial arts since they were young, so their bodies were not bad. Everyone knew how to drink, which didn't require much skill. Yi Qinghan found it strange too. He didn't know if it was because the wine in this world didn't contain much alcohol or because his body was really good. He had never drunk wine since he was young, but after drinking in the barbarian city, he realized that if he really drank wine, it would be like drinking water. No matter how much he drank, he didn't feel drunk. Come on, who's afraid of who? Feng Zi glared at him, not showing any signs of weakness. Hua Hua, Long Shuilu, and the others also rubbed their palms together, ready to go all out. They couldn't win against Yi Qinghan in love, but they didn't believe that the three of them couldn't win against him. A battle without gunpowder began. Because Yu Qingcheng was at the side, there was no foreplay, and the battle went straight into a hand-to-hand fight. The three of them were obviously on the same side, and they wanted to deal with Yi Qinghan together. Yi Qinghan wasn't afraid to fight. First, he drank 3 jars of wine with Feng Zi, and Feng Zi was drunk until he didn't know what was going on. Then, under Hua Hua's fearful gaze, Yi Qinghan and Hua Hua drank 3 jars of wine, and Long Shuilu fell under the table. At this time, Yu Qingcheng had been staring at Yi Qinghan with her bright, black eyes. Finally, she saw Long Shuilu fall to the ground, and Yi Qinghan's face was only a little red, but his eyes were still as clear as before. Then she giggled and said, "Your Yi family has a secret drinking technique? It's just that I have a good physique." Yi Qinghan rubbed his bulging belly and slowly stood up. He let out a burp and stood up shakily. He was about to walk out of the room. "What are you going to do? Do you need me to go with you?" Yu Qingqing was slightly stunned and asked with concern. "No, I'm going to relieve myself. I drank too much." Yi Qinghan's indistinct voice reverberated along with the sound of her leaving, causing the half of Yu Qingqing's face that was not covered to be boiling hot. She reached out to summon Yi Shisan and told him to take care of Yi Qinghan. Then, like a jumping little rabbit, she hurriedly walked back to her carriage. Chapter 72. Dragon City was located in the center of the House of Ares and was rumored to have existed since ancient times. According to the legends, in ancient times, there weren't 3 major prefectures, and the 3 clans all lived together in a chaotic manner. Although there were occasional disputes, there were no major wars. Then, an ancient great emperor appeared on the continent. He called himself the Dragon, and he led 3 generals from the 3 clans on expeditions to the east and west, finally unifying the continent and establishing the Fire Dragon Empire. Then he established Dragon City and divided the continent into 3 prefectures, with 3 generals from different clans appointed as prefectures. And now, Dragon City was the capital of the Fire Dragon Empire. The legends might not be trustworthy, but the prosperity of Dragon City was unquestionable. The city walls were more than 20 meters tall and more than 10 meters wide, and wrapped around the entire Dragon City like a dumpling. There was a moat dozens of meters wide, and the water inside was turbulent and unfathomable. This city wall is too majestic. This was the first time Yi Qinghan had come to Dragon City. Through the curtain of the carriage, he looked at the tall, green, and towering walls. It was as if he was seeing the great wall of his world for the first time, and he was deeply shocked. The carriages entered Dragon City without any obstruction. The prestige of the 5 great clans wasn't challenged in this aspect. Even the rows of prefectural soldiers at the city gates wore respectful and envious gazes. They stood to the side respectfully and watched the carriages advance. After the carriages entered Dragon City, they parted ways at an intersection. Each clan had a manor in Dragon City. Last night, they had agreed that they would go back and rest for the night and gather at the city lord's mansion the next morning. The Yi family's manor was in the east of the city. After traveling from the city gates for an hour, the carriages stopped in front of a large bronze gate. There were rows of people standing in front of the gate. They had probably received the news and were waiting here in advance. "Greetings, young Master Han." Yi Qinghan alighted from the carriage and saw a group of people kneeling on one knee in front of the gate, and a middle-aged man standing in the middle with a smile. "I am Yi Ping. Nephew, you must have had a hard journey." The middle-aged man was about 40 years old. He looked scholarly and had a gentle expression, and he had the demeanor of an elder. Yi Qinghan greets Elder Yi Ping. Yi Qinghan had already obtained information about Yi Ping from Yi Shisan. He knew that Yi Ping was from the same generation as his father, Yi Dao. He was a collateral descendant of the family and had a good relationship with Yi Dao in his early years. He was now at the 2nd level of the Emperor realm and had been guarding the Dragon City all year round. He was one of the elders who held real power in the family. He wasn't at the same level as the city lord like Nightrod. He was one of the true higher-ups in the family. Therefore, when he saw that Yi Ping had expressed enough sincerity and personally came to the entrance of the manor to welcome him, he was too embarrassed to be so cold, so he politely bowed. When Yi Ping saw Yi Qinghan bowing respectfully to him, the smile on his face deepened. Didn't the family reports say that this kid didn't have any manners? He even dared to scold the patriarch? "Look, aren't you being very polite to me?" Yi Ping's mood became even better when he thought of this. He held Yi Qinghan's hand affectionately and said, "Come, let's talk inside. I thought you had prepared a banquet to welcome you." "Elder is too polite." Yi Qinghan nodded indifferently and nodded at Yi Shisan, Dongfang Dao, and the others behind him. Then they walked into the manor. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, the meal was very enjoyable under Yi Ping's deliberate persuasion. After the meal, Yi Qinghan sat leisurely by the tea table and drank tea. He sat quietly and waited for Yi Ping to speak. He knew that the elders of the Yi family definitely had something to tell him about the residence battle. Since they didn't tell him anything, he would be entering the residence battle zone in 2 days. Only Yi Ping could tell him something. Tomorrow, you will go to the City Lord residence to receive your badge. The day after tomorrow, you will be directly transported from the City Lord residence to the residence battle island. Before that, the family sent me a message asking me to explain to you the situation of the residence battle and the things you need to pay attention to. Yi Ping saw that Yi Qinghan was sitting quietly, so he didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. He had only participated in the residence battle once, and it was a chaotic residence battle where warriors of all levels could enter. However, the number of people who had participated in the residence battle was very high. Therefore, the information in this area was relatively complete. After receiving the message from the family, he specially went to the City Lord residence and looked through a lot of information about the residence battle. At this moment, seeing that Yi Qinghan was very interested in listening, he was also gratified. He paused and continued to speak. First of all, let me introduce the venue to you. The residence battle island is actually made up of 4 islands. There is a big island in the center and 3 small islands on 3 sides of the big island. You will be transported to the small island belonging to the House of Aries. This place is absolutely safe. It is where the camp of the House of Aries is located. As for the island in the center, we call it Netherworld Island. Netherworld Island is very large, about 1/10 the size of the House of Aries. The terrain inside is intricate. I will give you a detailed map later. Netherworld Island is the battlefield of the residence battle. You can kill wantonly here. Except for the children of the Yi family, you can't trust anyone here, including people from other families. Historically, people from the House of Aries often plotted against people from the House of Aries. As long as the deed is done secretly, the family can't do anything if there is no evidence. The residence battle is held once a year, and each prefecture has 100,000 people. The House of Aries has 50 elite teams like the one you are leading, and a total of 10,000 people. The rest of the 90,000 people are low-level warriors and ordinary soldiers, and the elites of the other 2 prefectures are also about 10,000 people. In the past, the rules of the residence battle have been that the elite teams will fight and hunt each other at the beginning. The final battle of all the legions will be held in the last month. The final battle is the most chaotic, so the family recommends that you don't participate. Therefore, your mission is to enter Netherworld Island in the first 11 months. Hunt the elites of the other 2 prefectures, collect badges, and earn points. I understand. How are the points calculated? Yi Qinghan blinked his eyes, nodded seriously, and asked. To explain the points, I first have to tell you about the difference in strength between the monster clan and the barbarian clan. Like the human race, the 2 clans are divided into 9 ranks. Monster Soldier, Great Monster Soldier, Monster Warrior, Great Monster Warrior, Monster General, Monster Commander, Monster Emperor, Monster Saint. There are also Barbarian Soldier, Great Monster Soldier, Great Monster Warrior, Barbarian General, Barbarian Commander, Barbarian Emperor, Barbarian Saint, and Barbarian Emperor. Of course, there will be no Monster Emperor or Barbarian Emperor in the 3 clans below the age of 30. At least on the surface, according to the family's information, there are no such geniuses in the 2 prefectures. After all, your father, Yi Dao, reached the Emperor realm at the age of 28. There is only one in the entire Fire Dragon continent every few hundred years, so you don't have to worry about this. The family's request for you is that you try not to participate in battles in the first half of the year and focus on training. When your strength reaches the martial realm, and you can protect yourself from the Barbarian Emperor and Monster Emperor, you can participate in battles in large numbers. Yi 13th and Yi 17th will tell you the details. The points are easy to calculate. Using the Monster Clan as an example, Monster Soldiers and Great Monster Soldiers are considered ordinary soldiers. They only have 1 point. Monster Warrior is 2 points. Great Monster Warrior is 5 points. Monster General is 10 points. Monster Commander is 30 points. And Monster Emperor is 100 points. Ah. After listening to Yi Ping's explanation, Yi Qinghan lowered his head and calculated silently. After a long time, he suddenly raised his head and said with a serious expression, "According to you, I have to kill at least 100 monster emperors, 300 monster commanders, or 1,000 monster generals to get 10,000 points to exchange for spirit pills?" Theoretically, yes. Yi Ping nodded and sighed. However, the elite teams from the 3 prefectures that enter Nether Island are basically led by marquises or monster emperors or barbarian emperors. The marquises and monster emperors and barbarian emperors are basically there to restrain them. If a marquis wants to kill a martial artist of a lower realm than him, the opponent's powerhouse will definitely restrain him and then summon their companions. Therefore, it is usually the martial artists of the same realm in the team who attack each other. On the surface, you are a general realm martial artist, but your strength is probably enough to kill a level 1 martial realm martial artist, right? Therefore, you have a great advantage in the prefecture battle. This is why the family sent you to participate in the prefecture battle. You don't understand the specifics, and it's hard to explain the situation. I'm just giving you a suggestion. Try to listen to Yi 13th and Yi 17th's opinions in the prefecture battle. The task was difficult. Yi Qinghan sighed deeply. The number 1 treasure of the prefecture battle, the spirit pills, was indeed not so easy to exchange for. Although the monster god and barbarian god prefectures had 200,000 elites, the points added up would probably be more than 1,000,000. However, in a chaotic battle like the prefecture battle, it would be quite difficult to obtain 10,000 points while preserving one's life. At least, Yi Qinghan felt that the difficulty was as high as the mountain in the Divine City, seemingly insurmountable. Late at night, Yi Ping explained many things to Yi Qinghan, and Yi Qinghan listened attentively. After all, this was related to his life and whether he could save his sister. The prefecture battle seemed to be easy to obtain points, but in fact it was extremely difficult. It was basically exchanging points with people's lives. After Yi Ping finished explaining the things that the family had ordered, he arranged for someone to bring Yi Qinghan to rest. After watching Yi Qinghan's figure disappear into the vast night, Yi Ping entered through the side door of the hall and came to a quiet room. The room was a study. A green figure was sitting quietly inside, drinking tea and reading a book. "Greetings, Grand Supreme Elder." Yi Ping bowed respectfully. "Eh." The green figure raised his head and looked over with a pair of bulging eyes. "Are you done explaining?" "I've explained everything according to Grand Supreme Elder's instructions," Yi Ping said softly. After a while, he asked with a puzzled expression, "Grand Supreme Elder, there are some questions that Yi Ping doesn't understand. Why did you send Yi Qinghan to the prefecture battle? You have to know that it's impossible for him to obtain so many points. Moreover, the prefecture battle is so dangerous. If anything happens, the family can't afford to lose." Yi Qingyo heard Yi Ping's question and revealed an expression that he knew he would ask. After a moment of silence, he sighed and said, "Both the patriarch and I know this. In fact, we don't expect him to obtain 10,000 points. The family has also arranged a few secret teams and experts to secretly obtain points. Moreover, this kid has been chosen by the Yu family Saintus. After a discussion with Yu, the Yu family has also sent 3 super elite teams to help him obtain the spirit pills. As for why we sent Yi Qinghan to the prefecture battle, I get angry just thinking about it. Isn't it all because of that idiot Yi Jian? If he hadn't caused so much trouble, would the situation be so troublesome now? You don't know how much Yi Qinghan resisted the family after that incident. It could even be said that he completely disliked the family. The patriarch and I had no choice but to use him to save his sister to slowly ease the gap between him and the family. As for the danger, the patriarch said that martial artists who don't experience life and death battles will never become strong. Moreover, 13, 17, and the Death God team will follow him. As long as they don't act rashly, it shouldn't be a big problem. Moreover, the family has other arrangements, so you don't have to worry too much. Since Grand Supreme Elder and the family have arrangements, Yi Ping is naturally assured. I hope that this kid will have a smooth journey in the prefecture battle. I hope so. Later, let 13 and 17 come in. I'll explain to them. Two deep sighs resounded in the room. It added a bit of melancholy to the summer night. Chapter 73. To the north of the house of Ares' floating snow city was a famous snowy mountain called Qingshan. At the foot of the mountain was a small city called Qingshan City. 50 years ago, an 18-year-old youth walked out of Green Mountain City. This youth possessed unparalleled cultivation. He walked all the way from the north and challenged the famous young experts of the 5 major clans. He won every battle and declined the recruitment offers from the 5 major clans. Finally, he fought his way into the chaotic prefecture battle 30 years ago. He fought his way through countless demon and barbarian emperors and obtained the highest number of points in the prefecture battle 30 years ago. After that, he went into seclusion for 5 years and came out again to challenge the previous generation's prefecture master of Divine Battle Prefecture. After fighting for a day and a night, he won and became the house master of the House of Ares with unquestionable strength. He was the current house master of the House of Ares and the #1 expert of the House of Ares in the continent, Long Bofu. Standing in front of the palace-like Castellan's mansion, Yi Qinghan listened to Yi Shisan's brief introduction of House Master Long. He couldn't help but feel excited. He couldn't help but look forward to meeting the legendary #1 expert of the House of Ares. Today, he got up early in the morning. According to the rules of each mansion battle, the elite squads of the major families would come to Dragon City before the battle. They would stand in the square in front of the Castellan's mansion to be received by the mansion master and listen to the motivational speech before the battle. Then, they would receive their tokens after being tested by the staff of the Divine City. Rows of elite squads were already lined up neatly on the square, and there were people everywhere. As time passed, more and more squads were pouring in from all directions, and there were also countless spectators nearby. The entire front gate of the city lord's mansion had become a scene of tens of thousands of soldiers parading. Brother Qinghan, you came so early. We went to the Yi family's mansion early in the morning, but found nothing. At this moment, a group of people walked over from the left. The 2 people in front were Fengzi and Huahua. Behind them were 2 neat teams. They were the elite teams of their clans. Well, I woke up a little earlier today. Since I have nothing to do, I came over to take a look. Yi Qinghan was not surprised by the arrival of Fengzi and the flowers. Although both of them were likely to be the successors of their clan's patriarchs. Yi Ping's introduction of the mansion battle yesterday was enough to prove that Yi Ping was right. He knew that as long as he didn't leave War God Island, where the House of Ares was, his safety was guaranteed. Even if he left War God Island, as long as he didn't go deeper into Nether Island, he wouldn't be in too much danger. Therefore, it wasn't strange for the 2 precious young masters to participate in the mansion battle. Let's wait together. You guys can line up with the Yi family brothers. Fengzi waved his hand behind him, signaling his clan's team to stand together with Yi Qinghan's Reaper team. Flora nodded and waved his hand behind him. The 2 squads at the back stood side by side with the Reaper squad in silence. Wah! Suddenly, there was a low cry from the side of the crowd, which caused a commotion among the crowd. Yi Qinghan and the rest were attracted by it too. They lifted their heads and looked over, only to see the crowd parting to form a path. A group of women in purple with their faces covered walked over in an orderly manner. Before they even arrived, a faint fragrance had already greeted them. Brother Han, your wife is here. Fengzi chuckled and straightened his muscular body. He blinked and said to Yi Qinghan. Looking at the woman in the middle of the group, a hint of disappointment flashed across Flora's beautiful phoenix eyes, but he recovered in an instant and teased her. We're brothers. Don't tease me like this in the future. You know, I resisted this marriage before, but it didn't work. Yi Qinghan shrugged and said helplessly, Damn you, show off all you want. Flora and Fengzi raised their middle fingers and cursed softly. What are you guys chatting about? Just then, Yi Qinghan walked over and blinked her bright eyes as she spoke. Her expression was natural, as if the few people in front of her were good friends for many years. She did not look awkward at all. Nothing much. Greetings, Miss Qingchen. Also, it's time for Master Long to appear, right? Fengzi laughed and changed the topic. Yeah, isn't he here? Yu Qingqing smiled. She did not expose Feng Zi's lie, but turned to look at the city lord's mansion and said. When they heard that, they subconsciously turned to look at the city lord's mansion. Just then, the main gate of the city lord's mansion slowly opened, and the noisy square shut their mouths at the same time when they saw the city lord's mansion slowly open. They looked at the small figure slowly walking out of the main gate of the city lord's mansion with passionate eyes. He's Dragon Man? Yi Qinghan looked at the small and monotonous figure in front of him and thought to himself. He had heard of Dragon Man's name since he was young, and he had always fantasized about his handsome appearance. Even if he was not 7 feet tall and had 3 heads and 6 arms, he should at least be tall and mighty with a domineering aura. However, it was difficult for the figure in front of him, who looked like an old man sweeping the streets, to match the image in his mind. Master Long! Master Long! Yi Qing'an thought this way, but it did not mean that others would think the same way. They followed Dragon Man and walked out. Suddenly, there was an earth-shattering roar from the crowd, and people kept joining in the roar. In an instant, the roar in the square shook the heavens. Countless martial artists, who had never seen him before, roared with their heartfelt respect for the strong, waving their arms to welcome the #1 expert of the House of Aries. Master Long kept a smile on his face, like an amiable old man sweeping the streets. He just stood quietly in front of the city lord's mansion. There were no guards or followers behind him. He stood there alone. The crowd slowly felt that his figure was becoming taller and taller, like a tall mountain that they could not look up to. After the crowd roared a few times, he gently raised his hand, and his body slowly rose into the air. It was as if there was a mysterious force under his feet that was constantly lifting him up. The scene was strange and silent for a moment. Emperors and sages could fly in the air. This was something everyone knew. However, the short and skinny Master Long in front of them did not seem to be using any strength in his body. He could actually fly slowly. It should be known that there were countless Duke Realm experts in the training field. They did not feel the slightest aura of battle aura being released. But Dragon Man just rose into the air. Master Long! Master Long! The square became noisy again. Countless people looked up at the high and mighty Dragon Man, who was as gentle as the old man next door. He roared once more. Palace Master Long nodded, raised his hand again, and then pressed it down. Only when the entire area had returned to silence did he speak again. His voice wasn't loud, but his steady and slightly magnetic voice rang clearly in everyone's ears. Hello, everyone. I am Dragon Man. Tomorrow is the Elite Mansion Battle, which is held once every 60 years. I have nothing to say. I just want to ask you one thing. Are you all ready? We are ready. The sound was like a tidal wave, instantly drowning the entire square. Yi Qinghan secretly clicked his tongue. It seemed that Master Long's prestige and popularity in the House of Aries were extremely high. Very good. The demons in the west and the barbarians in the south have also said that they are ready. Then, young lads, polish the weapons in your hands and fight. 30 years ago, I and countless warriors used the weapons in our hands to completely beat the demons and barbarians to the ground. Now, it is your turn. The glory and dignity of the House of Aries will be in your hands. In 3 years, I will be waiting for your return here. Master Long's voice continued to be calm and friendly, but the domineering and confidence in his tone was exceptionally clear. Fight, fight, fight. Following Dragon Man's words, the emotions in the square were completely ignited. Countless people waved the weapons in their hands and roared. After Dragon Man finished speaking, he once again smiled warmly, waved his hand, turned around, and then turned into a shadow, disappearing from the Castellan's mansion. Then, rows of warriors in white robes walked out of the Castellan's mansion. Each of them held a white crystal pillar in their hands and lined up in front of the square. At this time, 3 white-robed warriors appeared out of thin air above the Castellan's mansion. One of the white-robed warriors flew to the front alone and shouted in a deep voice, "Now, you will receive badges according to your individual strength." There are 100 crystal pillars in front of you to test your strength. As long as you activate the battle chi in your body and attach it to the crystal pillar, you will be able to test your strength. Then, you will receive the badge and activate it with a drop of blood. Now, warriors who want to enter the mansion battle, line up to receive it. Fengzi nodded and took the lead to walk towards the white crystal pillar. He stretched out his left hand, and battle chi slowly appeared in his palm. Then, he touched the white crystal pillar, and the white crystal pillar suddenly changed color, turning a deep yellow. Third layer General Realm. Dark yellow badge. Activate it with a drop of blood. The white-robed man next to the white crystal pillar said coldly. He took out a dark yellow ring and handed it over. Fengzi took the ring and put it on. Then, he squeezed a drop of blood from his other hand. The ring lit up, and a faint battle character appeared on the dark yellow ring. Chapter 74. The white-robed man nodded and looked at everyone with a puzzled expression. He said, "Depending on your strength, you will be given the color of the badge. After you wear it and activate it with your blood, you won't be able to take it off. If you want to take it off, you either have to chop off your finger or die. If there's nothing else, you can go to the Divine City to remove it or come here to remove it." Next, after everyone went to collect their rings, Yi Qinghan watched for a while and understood the rules of the badge. He also understood why Elder Yi Ping said he could hide his strength last night. The white crystal pillar could only measure the level of battle aura. Badges of different colors were given according to the level of battle aura. Ordinary soldiers could only receive white rings. Elite martial artists received red rings. Commander-level martial artists received orange rings. General-level martial artists received yellow rings. Martial artists received green rings. And Duke martial artists received cyan rings. The color of each martial artist's ring was different according to their strength. For example, first-level general martial artists received light yellow rings, second-level general martial artists received light yellow rings, and third-level general martial artists received dark yellow rings. On the surface, Yi Qinghan was a first-level general martial artist, so he would definitely receive a light yellow ring when collecting his badge. However, with his overall strength, he would definitely receive a dark green ring. That was why Yi Ping said he could hide his strength and kill people of a higher level. Of course, the 5 great clans were actually hiding their strength. On the surface, Fengzi was a third-level general martial artist, but with his imperial sword technique, his combat strength was probably at the martial level. Not to mention Hua Xia, a third-level general martial artist could easily assassinate a first-level general martial artist after he's stealthily activated. Presumably, there were also a few people in the Demon God's Estate and the River Barbarian God's Estate who could hide their strength. Therefore, it was impossible to deduce a martial artist's true strength just by looking at the surface of the ring. The process went quickly. For hours later, everyone had collected their badges and rings. As expected, Yi Qinghan received a light yellow ring. What surprised Yi Qinghan was that Yu Qingsheng, who was a third-level general martial artist, received a dark yellow ring. It was just that he did not know what level of martial artist she could kill if she coordinated with the Yu clan spirit technique. When Yi Qinghan was staring at the ring in Yu Qingsheng's hand, Yu Qingsheng probably sensed it. A trace of craftiness flashed across her eyes. She leaned over and said softly, "Haha, I can kill a normal second-level martial. Of course, I can't deal with someone with a strong soul. Yi Qinghan, don't underestimate women. I'm not a vase." F***CK. Yi Qinghan's heart skipped a beat as he stared at the pair of spirited eyes that were right in front of him. He thought to himself, "It seems like I can't underestimate the disciples of the 5 great clans. A woman like this is actually so terrifying." At the same time, he smelled the faint fragrance coming from beside him. His mind was shaken, and an indescribable feeling surged in his heart. Yi family manor in Dragon City. Yi Qinghan gathered Dongfang Dao's group of 5 in a side hall for the first time. He wasn't disgusted by the 5 of them following him. Firstly, the 5 of them had performed well along the way. Secondly, their fathers had perished along with his father, so it was his family that owed them. Now that they were wholeheartedly following him, he couldn't bear to leave them out in the cold. Young Master. Outside, the five of them called him Young Master. When there was no one around, they called him Young Master. Yi Qinghan did not really like this title, but he could not dissuade them and could only accept it. We'll be entering the prefecture battle island tomorrow. I can't give you anything. Moreover, I'm sure you know why I'm entering the prefecture battle. You also know how dangerous this prefecture battle is. If you withdraw now, I won't blame you. Moreover, I will have the Yi family provide you with a good place to settle down. Yi Qinghan said sincerely. After all, this time, people would definitely die. The five of them were still so young. It was not worthwhile to follow him to death for a promise made by their fathers. The five of them looked at each other and saw the determination in each other's eyes. Dongfang Dao stood up and said, "If it wasn't for Master, our family would have been destroyed. Our family's genealogy clearly states that we will serve Master Yi Dao and his descendants as our masters for the rest of our lives." Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment, then helplessly nodded. He took out a booklet from his bosom and handed it over, saying, "In that case, I won't say anything more. These are the 5 king-level secret skills I asked the Yi family. They're also very suitable for you to cultivate. You will mainly focus on cultivation in this prefecture battle. I will put you in the Reaper squad. In the future, you don't need to protect me. After all, with Yi Shisan and Yi 17 by my side, my safety is guaranteed. You will be safer with the Reaper squad." Yes, the 5 of them looked ashamed. Indeed, at their age, they were considered geniuses in the House of Aries with their cultivation at the 3rd level of the general realm. However, compared to a freak like Yi Qinghan, they were nothing. If they followed Yi Qinghan, who knew who would be the one to protect, they took the secret skills with their names written on it and thought that Yi Qinghan treated them well. After all, there were not many king-level secret skills in the Yi family. The 5 of them secretly planned to redouble their cultivation in the future. Otherwise, if their strength couldn't keep up with Yi Qinghan's footsteps, there would be no value in their existence as the dripping blood guards. After the 5 of them said their goodbyes, Yi Qinghan took out a wooden box from the side. In fact, the 5 king-level secret skills in this wooden box were passed down from the family. Elder Yi Ping had just specially sent it over. The secret skills given to the 5 of them were all king level. It seemed that the treasures in the wooden box given to him by the Yi family would definitely not be inferior. The box had no lock, only a simple switch. When it was gently opened, there were 3 things in the box: a cyan dagger, a set of black soft armor, and a booklet. Yi Qinghan's eyes narrowed slightly. He estimated that these things must be extraordinary. After all, it was the first time that the Yi family, one of the 5 major families, made a move, so it would definitely not be shabby. He reached out and picked up the dagger. The cyan dagger was about a foot long and was very heavy. It was at least twice as heavy as the dagger he used before. However, this weight was insignificant for him, who was at the 1st level of the general realm. He stabbed a few times in the air and felt that it was very smooth. He took out the original dagger from his boots with satisfaction and then inserted the new dagger into the booklet. The black soft armor was very light and soft. He didn't know what material it was made of. Yi Qinghan pondered for a moment. He picked up the dagger he used before and gently scratched it. Ugh! There was no trace at all. Therefore, he increased his strength. He used 30% of his strength and scratched it heavily. However, it only left a faint white mark. When he touched it with his hand, it disappeared. This soft armor was a treasure. In the next moment, Yi Qinghan determined that this soft armor must be extraordinary. Therefore, he simply took out the cyan dagger and slashed at the old dagger he used before. Crack! The original dagger broke with a sound. Yi Qinghan smiled in satisfaction. It seemed that the gifts from the Yi family were quite good. This soft armor and dagger seemed to be treasures of the highest grade. Treasures were divided into 4 grades: human, spirit, treasure, and saint. Obviously, these 2 treasures were at least spirit tools and most likely treasure tools. As for saint tools, the Yi family only had 2. One was with Yi Tianlong, and the other was with Yi Qinghan. Presumably, before Yi Tianlong died, the saint tool would not be passed down to him. Finally, He picked up the remaining booklet and flipped it open. There was actually a small note inside. After reading it, Yi Qinghan's expression showed that he had expected it. The note introduced the grades and functions of the dagger and soft armor. The dagger was called the Blue Dragon Dagger, a low-grade saint tool. It might not be able to cut through iron like mud, but it was definitely a killing weapon. The soft armor was called the Black Tortoise Armor, a low-grade saint tool. It could block the stab of a low-grade saint tool. In theory, it could block a full-force attack from a level 3 martial. A saint tool. Although the two treasures were low-level, not to mention the dagger, the soft armor was definitely priceless. It was definitely a peerless treasure that could save one's life. Only now did he know that saint tools were divided into upper and lower grades. Didn't he know that saint tools were not divided into lower and lower grades? If they were divided, what grade would his bronze ring be? However, when he thought about the bronze ring's automatic healing function, he wouldn't trade it for a few saint tools. He laughed at himself and picked up the booklet. On the booklet, there were 3 big words, Shadow Step. When Yi Qinghan saw the small words at the bottom, his expression finally changed. His lips moved and his fingers trembled. After a long time, he finally said, Saint Tier's secret technique. Yi Ruoshui's masterpiece? After taking a few deep breaths, Yi Qinghan tried his best to calm himself down. It seemed that his grandfather was willing to go all out for him. Saint Tier's secret technique and Saint Tool were the family's treasures. Although the Yi family was wealthy, they only had one Saint Tool and a few Saint Tier secret techniques. Moreover, this was created by Ancestor Yi Ruoshui. Ancestor Yi Ruoshui was a person who could stand shoulder to shoulder with the founding divine ancestor Knight Emperor in the Yi family's thousands of years of history. How could the secret technique he created be simple? Since the Yi family owed him, it was only natural for him to take it. Yi Qinghan told himself that there was no need to be polite. The temptation of a Saint Tier secret technique was too great. Of course, Yi Qinghan wouldn't resist this temptation. Only a fool wouldn't want such a treasure. He couldn't wait to open the secret technique and read it. Shadow Step, as the name suggests, is a footwork technique. It's a footwork technique used to avoid the enemy's attack in a small area. There are 3 levels in total. Mastering all 3 levels allows one to go anywhere in the world. The first level requires a general realm cultivation base to master. Go anywhere in the world. Seeing these words, Yi Qinghan felt that the Saint Tier secret technique created by Ancestor Yi Ruoshui didn't let him down. A Saint Tier secret technique was indeed a Saint Tier secret technique. Although it wasn't an offensive secret technique, it was more precious than anything else to Yi Qinghan. He didn't lack attacks. Once he used the body fusion technique, a normal martial would definitely die if he got close. This Saint Tier secret technique that didn't care about defense or cultivation base directly attacked the soul, gave him a perverse attack method. What he lacked the most right now was a life-saving technique. After all, the mansion battle wasn't a one-on-one battle. When hundreds of people attacked each other, you could instantly kill anyone, but when you killed your enemy, attacks from the side would land on you. In such a chaotic situation, how important was a life-saving technique? Now, it seemed that Yi Tianlong still placed his safety as the top priority. He even passed on such a precious Saint Tier secret technique to him for free. After quickly browsing through it, Yi Qinghan immediately started cultivating. This was a life-saving technique. The earlier he mastered it, the earlier he would be safe. His strength would also improve a lot sooner. The first level looked simple, but it was actually very complicated. First, he had to release his battle chi from the soles of his feet and use it to speed up his footwork. Then, he had to continuously practice 18 seemingly awkward footwork techniques. Releasing battle chi from the soles of his feet wasn't difficult because he had experience in releasing battle chi. On the other hand, he had to practice the 18 awkward footwork techniques continuously. In the end, he had to master them all and form his body's instinctive reaction. After reading through it, Yi Qinghan pondered in silence for a while. Then, he started the boring cultivation of releasing battle chi. The next day, early in the morning, when the first ray of sunlight from the east shone into the room, Yi Qinghan opened his eyes. He hadn't slept the entire night, but with his general realm cultivation, he didn't feel the slightest bit tired. He just felt a little dispirited after a night of cultivation. He forced himself to stay awake, stood up, and stretched his body. Then he washed his face and rinsed his mouth. After a quick breakfast, he walked to the entrance of the manor. Outside, Yi Shisan and the others were already waiting for him. Yi Qinghan smiled and entered the carriage. With a wave of his hand, he signaled for them to set off. The group arrived at the plaza in front of the city lord's mansion. He had long noticed that there were 3 huge teleportation arrays on the right side of the plaza. However, they were guarded by soldiers, so he couldn't get close. Now, if he wanted to teleport to the prefecture's battle island, he had to use the teleportation array. The plaza was already filled with people. Everyone was lining up to enter the teleportation array. Beside the teleportation array, there were more than 10 white-robed people like yesterday. They were constantly activating the teleportation array, sending groups of people over. Young Master Feng, and the others are over there. They're probably waiting for you. Yi Shisan's eyes were sharp, and he immediately saw Feng Zi, Hua Hua, and Yu Qingqing standing near the first teleportation array on the left. They were looking left and right. It seemed like they were waiting for them. Yes, let's go. Yi Qinghan got off the carriage and ordered everyone to follow. He asked the coachman of the Yi family to send the carriage to the manor, and his group walked over to Feng Zi. Young Master Han, did you do something bad last night? Why are you so late? Feng Zi glanced at Yu Qingqing when she saw Yi Qinghan coming over and smiled. To hell with being the second master. I've been practicing for the whole night. Why is there no one at this teleportation array? Yi Qinghan scolded jokingly, looking at the teleportation array with interest. Yu Qingqing laughed and explained, this is used by the 5 great clans. After we finish teleporting, we'll naturally let them use it. Then are we leaving now? Or do we have to wait for someone? Yi Qinghan nodded at Yu Qingqing as a form of greeting and said with a smile, let's go. We're just waiting for you. Shui Wuhan, that traitor, isn't with us now. He left a long time ago. I heard that Long Shuilu and Long Sainan left first. Long Sainan is the daughter of House Master Long, Hua Hua said disdainfully. It seemed that the more she looked at Shui Wuhan, the more she disliked him. Yes, let's go. Yi Qinghan nodded, then made a gesture of invitation to Yu Qingqing. Yu Qingqing didn't stand on ceremony. She nodded at the Pink Legion behind her and led her elite team to the teleportation array. The few white-robed people beside the teleportation formation reminded them. Then, they inserted a few white crystals into a few corners of the teleportation formation. The teleportation formation suddenly erupted with a dazzling white light. Then, with a flash, Yu Qingqing's group disappeared. This teleportation array is very simple. I wonder what the white crystals in their hands are? And what's the principle behind this teleportation array? Yi Qinghan looked at the teleportation array with interest. He felt that this thing was too magical. Such a simple thing could teleport so many people 1,000 miles away in an instant. This was no different from a godly skill. I'll leave first. See you later. Feng Zi saw that Yi Qinghan had no intention of leaving, so she laughed and teleported with her people. Flowers and grass followed behind and brought people to teleport over. Finally, it was Yi Qinghan's turn. The group walked into the teleportation array. The people in white robes reminded them coldly, don't be nervous, don't panic, and don't resist. Then, they activated the teleportation array. There was a flash of white light. Yi Qinghan felt that the light was very dazzling, so he closed his eyes. Then, he suddenly felt a huge suction force sucking his body into the air. He also felt that his brain was slightly congested, and he was a little dizzy. Moreover, his ears were ringing. It might have been a while, or it might have been a long time. The terrifying suction force finally stopped, and his head slowly stopped feeling dizzy. Yi Qinghan opened his eyes slightly. After getting used to the light, he opened his eyes curiously to observe the surrounding scenery. At this moment, an old voice suddenly resounded in his ears. Welcome to the official battle island. Here, you will experience the massacre of blood and fire, and enjoy a year of hot-blooded passion. Chapter 75. An Old Voice. Yi Qinghan turned his head in puzzlement and saw an old man standing at the side of the team unknowingly. This old man was dressed in a gray robe and had a head of white hair. He looked slightly old and was looking at them with a smile. Why is there an old man? Isn't the elite prefecture battle only open to those under 30s? Yi Qinghan immediately became vigilant. This was the prefecture battle island. Danger could come at any time. At this time, Yi Shisan pulled his sleeve with a smile and whispered in his ear, "Don't be nervous. He's one of us, an elder who guards the island. Of course, he's not going to enter the Nether Island." After saying that, Yi Shisan pulled his sleeve again and cupped his hands at Yi Shisan. "Greetings, Guardian Elder." "Greetings, Guardian Elder." Yi Qinghan and the Reaper squad responded immediately and saluted. You're the disciples of the Yi family, right? Your courtyard is in the southern yard. Follow this road, and there will be someone there to receive you." After saying that, the gray-robed old man disappeared in a flash. Teleportation? Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes and turned to look at Yi Shisan in horror. This gray-robed old man was too terrifying. How could he disappear into thin air? I don't think so. A trace of respect and worship flashed in Yi Shisan's eyes. After a moment of silence, he said, "This guardian elder should be at least in the sage realm. Moreover, he studies the law of heaven and earth related to the law of space. His speed is so fast that it looks like he teleported to us." Terrifying. Staring blankly at the place where the guardian elder disappeared, Yi Qinghan was silent for a long time. Originally, he was very proud of his strength and became a little lax in his cultivation. Now, it seemed that his cultivation had not reached the threshold of cultivation. There were too many people in this world who could kill him in a second. However, this guardian elder showed off his skills as soon as he arrived. He must have known that those who came to the prefecture battle were the young elites of the House of Ares. He must have been a little proud and arrogant. He also wanted to warn them that there was always someone better than them. Only by maintaining a vigilant attitude would they not easily fall in the upcoming battle. "Let's go." Yi Qinghan smiled and said softly after figuring out the cause and effect. He took the lead and walked toward a courtyard in the distance. The battle island wasn't big. With a single glance, one could see the boundless deep blue ocean in the distance. Other than the small plaza that Yi Qinghan had just teleported to, the island was surrounded by courtyards. The battle island was guarded by a Sage Realm expert, so it should be very safe. The rows of green bricks and black tiles in front of him made it very easy to explain. Since the flames of war couldn't spread here, this was the base camp of the Divine Battle Residence, a place for everyone to rest, cultivate, and recuperate. Of course, it had to be better and more comfortable. The southern courtyard was not big, but it was very elegant. Hua Huafengzi and the others were nowhere to be seen. They were probably settling down their team. Yi Qinghan was led by two middle-aged men dressed in the same gray robes as the guardian elders to the small courtyard prepared for the Yi family. Yi Qinghan gestured to Yi Shisan to make arrangements for the Reaper squad while he and Yi Shisan walked into the hall of the small courtyard. There were quite a few people in the hall, and one of them was an acquaintance. "Yi Qingwu, why are you here?" Yi Qinghan looked at the figure that he hadn't seen for 2 months and asked in astonishment. The fiery red skin-tight leather armor, tighter-fitting fiery red leather pants, and a pair of fiery red leather boots. Yi Qingwu's devilish figure was completely revealed. Adding on her pure and cute face, it was hard for anyone to forget her after seeing her. "You can come, but I can't. I'm an expert ranked 6th on the Earth ranking. It's not too much for me to come here and play." Yi Qingwu was very satisfied with Yi Qinghan's performance. Her eyes curved into crescent moons as she stood up from the square chair. Her 2 straight and round white legs dazzled everyone in the room. "Greetings, young Master Han." After Yi Qingwu finished speaking, the other 4 people in the room stood up with Yi Qingwu and bowed respectfully to Yi Qinghan. "No need to be so polite. Yi Shisan knows that I don't like too many rules." Yi Qinghan nodded slightly and looked at Yi Qingwu with a smile. "Miss Wu, can you explain it to me?" "I say, Yi Qinghan, the Yi family doesn't treat you well, but Big Sister treats you well." There's no need to be so distant. Moreover, a large part of the reason why we came here to fight for our lives is because of you. Is this how you treat us? When Yi Qingwu heard Yi Qinghan call her Miss Wu, she was obviously a little displeased and pouted. Looking at Yi Qingwu's cute pouting expression, Yi Qingwu remembered that Yi Qingwu had helped him several times. When he was still a cripple, she had helped him suppress Yi Qingquang once in the Warbeast Academy. Then, at the most critical moment, she had lured Elder Yi Qingyou out and saved his life. Moreover, Yi Qingwu's battle prowess was indeed very terrifying. She had cultivated to the first level of martial tier at the age of 20, and combined with her 7th grade snow fox, she could probably reach the 3rd level of martial tier. Moreover, since Yi Qingyou allowed her to come to the prefecture Battle Island without worry, he must have given her some life-saving treasures. Thinking of the past, Yi Qinghan smiled slightly and said sincerely, "Big Sister Wu, it's my fault. You said that you came here for me?" Yi Qingwu felt Yi Qinghan's sincerity, and the smile on her face became even wider. She giggled and said, "That's right, but it's best to remove the word that from the front. To tell you the truth, I'm also here to kill people. These 4 people are Yi San, Yi Jiu, and Yi Shi. They're all experts of the Commander realm. We brought 2 small teams this time, and we're also here for the spirit pills. For the sake of insurance, the clan leader has dragged almost all the experts of the younger generation of the clan to the Battle Island. You're in the light, and we're in the dark, so we have a higher chance of success." "Is that so?" "Yes. I can't thank you enough. As long as I'm alive, I will remember your kindness in this life. Are you coming with me? Alone?" Yi Qinghan nodded at Yi and the others. It seemed that his grandfather was really hell-bent on thinking for him. Today, Yi and the others showed up and spoke tactfully to Yi Qingwu, and the meaning was very clear. Yi Tianlong wanted to tell him that he had already secretly sent people to get the spirit pills for his sister, and that he should try his best and not work too hard. The main force was not him, but the few low-profile warriors of the Yi family in front of him. "I'll be in your team. The clan leader wants me to watch over you. With 13 and 17 around, safety won't be a problem. Yi and the others will split into 2 teams and go alone to secretly get points." Yi Qingwu giggled, looking as if she was following him, protecting him, and supervising him. Yi Qinghan nodded blankly. Originally, he thought that Feng Zi and the others came to the prefecture Battle Island to have fun and gain experience. Now it seemed that the nature of his coming to the prefecture battle was the same as theirs. But thinking about it, he had a sacred beast. Although his strength was not bad among the elites of the 3 prefectures, in such a chaotic situation, with so many demon emperors and barbarian emperors who could easily kill him, it would be strange if the Yi family was willing to let him take the risk alone. Practice hard, Yi Qinghan thought to himself. He still felt uneasy putting all his hopes on Yi and the others. His sister was only relying on soul-nourishing medicine to keep a trace of her soul. If he wanted to save her, he had to get the first treasure of the prefecture battle. Looking at the current situation, if he only had this little strength, Yi Qingwu and Yi Shisan would definitely not bring him to kill wantonly and get a large number of points. Only with his strength could he protect himself from the attacks of demon emperors and barbarian emperors, who were comparable to Marquis realm experts. Could he use his abnormal body fusion technique to kill a large number of demon kings and barbarian emperors and get enough points to exchange for the spirit pills? "I'll go back to my room to rest first. Call me if there's anything." After thinking things through, Yi Qinghan chatted with Yi Qingwu and the others for a while. Then he went back to his room alone and prepared to practice. Patriarch's move is really brilliant. Under the tremendous pressure, this kid's cultivation base would definitely soar by leaps and bounds. This brat's comprehension is so high, his cultivation won't be too slow. I'm really looking forward to the scene of this brat sweeping across the Fire Dragon continent with a mature sacred beast after he reaches the Saint Realm. Looking at Yi Qinghan's determined figure gradually disappearing outside the door, Yi Qingwu twitched her nose and said with a smile, "As long as young Master Han doesn't die, The Yi family will definitely be able to suppress the major clans and the demon and barbarian residences for 200 years. Yi nodded and said with certainty. Then, he looked at Yi Shursan, and his eyes suddenly became fierce. He shouted in a deep voice, 17. Tell 13 that even if you all die, you must protect the safety of Miss Wu and young Master Han. I, third brother, ninth brother, and 11th brother will go first. You all take care. Eldest brother, third brother, ninth brother, 11th brother, you all take care too. Yi 17 nodded with a heavy expression. They were all orphans adopted by the Yi family. Among thousands of people, they relied on their amazing talent and diligent cultivation to be given the titles Yi to Yi 30 by the Yi family. But as they continued to carry out missions, only a dozen or so of the 30 of them survived. This mission seemed to be the most difficult and dangerous. Who knew how many of them would survive in the end? His heart was a little heavy and sad. Yi, be careful. Hunt for points under the premise of protecting yourself. The Patriarch has ordered that as long as you complete this mission, the 6 of you will be completely abolished as Death Warriors. The family will give you the position of Clan Elder. This is the last mission, so everyone take care. Miss Wu, don't worry. We are the strongest force on the Netherworld Island. After so many years in the wind and fire, no one has taken our lives. I don't believe that a few demons and barbarians can do anything to us. Third brother, ninth brother, 11th brother, let's go and kill. Yi laughed and cupped his hands towards Yi Qingwu. He patted Yi 17's shoulder and strode out. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.